Welcome, excuse me. Welcome to tonight's town board meeting on Monday, January 22nd, 2024. We're going to begin in memory of
Holocaust Remembrance Day. It's an international memorial day that commemorates the victims of the Holocaust, the genocide of the Jewish people, minorities, people with disabilities, and other groups. January 27th was chosen because it was the date when the Auschwitz concentration camp was liberated in 1945. Locally, we have a very important organization, the Holocaust Resource Center, or Holocaust Education Resource Center, and they do work to remember the survivors and the victims. They work with children of survivors. They provide education. They go into the schools. They have videos. They're a really important part of the community. If you've never been to their website or any of their programs, you should check it out. And now, please rise for the pledge.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I would ask our town clerk to please call the roll. Janet.
By the bonds of the Lord, what so proudly we hail, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
All right, thank you for that. Now I would ask our town clerk to please call the roll.
Supervisor Copa,
Here.
Councilmember Berger,
Here.
Councilmember Lavin, Councilmember Zucala, and Councilmember Marinucci.
Here.
First item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. I'll motion those as they appeared in our agenda packets.
Second.
All in favor? We have a number of public hearings this evening. The first is Resolution 57, the second of two public hearings required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the fiscal year 2024 Community Development Action Plan. I'll motion to open public hearing at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
We're going to do this.
Want me to now?
Good evening. My name is James Quinn, and I am Assistant Planner for the Planning Department. This is the second public hearing for the development of the 2024. My apologies. I'll start again for you. My name is James Quinn. I am an Assistant Planner for the Planning Department. This is the second public hearing for the development of the 2024 Action Plan for the town's community development programming. At this time, we are seeking final public comments for the draft 2024 Action Plan for the Town of Amherst Community Development Programming. The plan outlines the expenditure of U.S. Housing and Urban Development's entitlement funds to the town as part of the Community Development Block Grant and the Home Investment Partnership programs. Programming must address housing and development needs within the town and also be eligible activities under the Community Development Block Grant or Home Investment Partnership Program and as determined by HUD. Projects must also be consistent with the town's 5-year consolidated plan for the town of Amherst, Cheektowaga, and Tonawanda. Also, for certain projects using CDBG funding, such as public infrastructure, activities must occur in qualifying census tracts and assisted targeted neighborhoods. This is a map of the qualifying census tracts for targeted neighborhoods and public infrastructure improvements. For 2024, the town is expected to be level funded, receiving $628,000 in CDBG funds, with a 7% allocated to Village of Williamsville, and $1 million in home funds for the towns of Amherst, Cheektowaga, and Tonawanda Home Consortium. This leaves approximately $400,000 for the town's share of home funding after administrative costs are taken out. To supplement this funding, Amherst expects to receive program income of approximately $110,000 for CDBG and $400,000 for home in 2024. Here's the allocation breakdown for CDBG programming. Williamsville will take their 7% share and continue to rehab the section house and the meeting house. That is for roughly $43,960. Amherst low-income housing homeowner housing rehab program will be the bulk of our programming funding, funded at roughly $294,040 plus program income. Public services accounts for $87,000 and includes such things as an additional cook for Meals on Wheels, foreclosure, homeownership and credit counseling, and domestic violence legal assistance for women and children. Public facilities is proposed to be funded at $82,000 and includes ADA sidewalk repairs, and the remaining $121,000 is for administrative costs required by HUD. The list to the right is a full budgetary line items for CDBG, and the figures include program income where applied. For the home program, Amherst evenly shares the allocation with Cheektowaga and Tonawanda after administrative costs are taken out. Of course, Amherst is the lead jurisdiction and administrator for the three towns. The remaining amounts are divided between four key program areas: the low-income homeowner housing rehab program, the acquisition rehab resale program, the first-time homebuyer program, and the home rental subsidy for new multifamily housing. The homeowner rehab program runs similarly to the CDBG funded program, where homeowners can get funding to make necessary repairs to their home as a 0% loan placed as a lien on the property. The acquisition rehab program, resale program, acquires vacant property and rehabs them top to bottom to resell to an eligible first-time homebuyer. The first-time homebuyer program provides closing cost assistance as a 0% loan on the property, and the home rental subsidy program provides funding for affordable units in new multifamily projects. Pardon me. The only reason we didn't allocate direct funding to the acquisition rehab and the closing cost assistance program was because that we had adequate funding from prior years, as you can see on the table. In summary of the public input opportunities for the development of the plan, the town held its first public hearing in October 2023, which kicked off a month-long public comment period. No public comments were received during that time. The action plan was then drafted and released for public review in December of 2023. Notices were also provided to the Amherst Bee requesting comment on the draft plan. A second month-long comment period ended in January 12th, 2024. No written public comments were received. The public hearing tonight is the final opportunity for public comment on the draft 2024 action plan before it is finalized. The next steps for the plan involve addressing any public comments received this evening. The final draft will then be submitted to the town board at the February 5th town board meeting. By the end of February, the community development is then required to submit to HUD for finalization. And now I open the floor for any comments or questions.
We did get a little off topic at prior public hearing on this item. We need to stay on topic on the public hearings, and then there is a moment for there's opportunity for public expression, which is the open portion of the evening later. I am going to ask our town attorney to please read our rules of order for public hearings.
Thank you, Supervisor. I'll just start from the top. As Supervisor Culpa mentioned, I'm the town attorney. I'm also appointed to the position of parliamentarian to the town board. I'd like to welcome those of you who are new or relatively new to attending town board meetings. And with regard to public participation at tonight's meeting, you will have several opportunities, including right now during our public hearings. In light of the increased attendance at the past few board meetings in this packed room tonight, it's important that I review with you all the town board's rules of order with regard to decorum, public hearings, and public expression. For your convenience, there are copies of the full rules of order in the slots hanging on the doors to both entrances to this chambers. There you're also able to find a copy of tonight's agenda. The rules of order and full agenda packets are available on the town's website. With regard to decorum must be maintained throughout tonight's meeting. Pursuant to the rules of order, speakers shall address the board as a whole and refrain from partisan political commentary, personal, impertinent, slanderous, or profane remarks, catcalls, or other outbursts that disrupt the order of the meeting. Any person who makes such remarks or otherwise disrupts the meeting with loud outbursts, shouting, threats, or other disruptive behavior shall, at the discretion of the supervisor, or after motion and a majority consensus of the board, be ruled out of order. With regard to public hearings, next slide, Tim. Thank you. There are a number of public hearings scheduled for tonight. The petitioner may present for up to 15 minutes. Following the petitioner, the neighborhood representative or their attorney may also have 15 minutes to comment on the subject of the hearing. Thereafter, speakers at all public hearings may only speak once and comment for up to 3 minutes. The town clerk will ring a bell to let you know when you have 30 seconds left to finish. And then the town clerk will ring a bell a second time when your time is finished. Written comments may be submitted at any time prior to the close of the hearing and will be included as part of the official record for the hearing. Next slide. With regard to public expression, there are 2 opportunities for you to address the board with comments on topics not covered within the public hearing scheduled for tonight. Per the rules of order, the purpose of public expression is to allow opportunity for the public to formally communicate with the board on any matter involving Amherst. This is not designed to be a conversation with the board, but an opportunity for the public to express their opinion on issues that the board will cover during that meeting or bring to attention an issue involving Amherst. Speakers may comment for up to 3 minutes. Again, the town clerk will ring the bell once when you have 30 seconds remaining and twice when your time is finished. There's a sign-up sheet at the podium for you to indicate your interest in speaking. Once those that have signed up are finished, the supervisor will ask if there are any additional speakers who would like to comment. Please sign in at that time when you address the podium. A final reminder that decorum must be maintained. All remarks shall be addressed to the board as a whole and not any single member thereof. In the event that a speaker's inquiry is urgent or their comment is inaccurate, the supervisor or a town board member may respond for 1 minute following the closing of public expression. Thank you for your adherence to these town board's rules of order.
So that said, we have a public hearing open. Is there any speakers? Are there any speakers wishing to comment on the Community Development Program 2024 Action Plan? Is there any questions from the board? Seeing none, I would motion to close.
Explain what this is about, Frank?
That we've presented this. I am speaking into the microphone, sir. We have. We have presented this. James just presented this. It's literally the HUD funding, community development programs the town offers. This is what the town intends to do in this budget year. That said, are there any questions or comments relative to that program? Please come forward. I'm going to ask you to state about this specific subject. You could speak on a public hearing and still speak at public expression.
My My question is, can you?
You got to state your name and
yes.
address for record,
Allison
please.
Seagraves, 171 Amherstdale Road. I have a question about the 20% administrative fee, where that's going and why there needs to be a 20% administrative fee to distribute 80% of block grants. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lori Stillwell. I'm the Town of Amherst Community Development Director. So the Town of Amherst is an entitlement community, meaning we receive HUD funds from the federal government annually, and we have to prepare this plan in order to tell them how we intend to spend those funds. There's limited amounts of programming areas that are available for us to utilize according to federal regulations. And in order to carry out some of those programming areas, we need to maintain staff. So as part of that, there's administrative costs that are covered by that. And so the 20% in this given year, it funds, and every year it funds, we have about, I think we have 5 staffers involved. We have a building inspector. We have someone who does client intake for a variety of our programs. We have a financial person. We have a director. And when we have a part-time planner and community development manager, James Quinn. So as part of that, we have significant staff, plus we're a lead jurisdiction for our HUD Home Consortium with the towns of Tonawanda and Cheektowaga, meaning we provide administrative services for the management of those federal funds to those communities as well. So we oversee everything with HUD Buffalo for those communities, and that's where the 20% cost goes. And that's a cap, by the way. The federal government caps that amount, so we cannot exceed it.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anybody else have any comments or questions on the 2024 draft action plan? Seeing none, I'm going to motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is Resolution 58. It's a public hearing on 2280 Worley Drive. There's a proposed comprehensive plan amendment in front of us as a board. I'm going to motion to open the public hearing at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Good evening. I'm Jeff Palumbo. I'm with the law firm of Block Longo. I represent the petitioner, Michael Keller, who is in this room somewhere. The request, as you've indicated, is a request to amend the town's comprehensive plan with the ultimate goal of rezoning the property on Worley Drive from its current zoning classification of office building to multifamily, which would allow a townhouse development. And we can go to the next slide, please. So you see the property is located and shaded in that dark color with the red dot on it. It is the northeast corner of Worley Drive and Ridge Court South. And as I indicated, it is currently zoned R3. Next. What are we seeking? Ultimately, as I indicated, we're seeking the rezoning of the property to a multifamily designation, and we would like to remove the office building designation so that would allow us to build the 4 townhomes that you will see shortly. I will add that you all know the process very well. This is the very first step in a very long process. We've been to the planning board. Planning board has made a recommendation to you of approval, recommending that the comprehensive plan be amended to allow the townhouse development. Next slide. This is just a couple pictures of the property itself. It's vacant land right now located, as I indicated, on the corner. Next. The neighborhood itself is to the north, single-family residential, as you can see on the screen. To the south, we have warehousing and distribution centers across the street. To the east, we have a commercial office, and to the west, we also have commercial office development. So the plan is shaded here, and that indicates a single-family designation, a commercial office designation, and we're looking to change that map, change the color to mixed residential to allow ultimately for the rezoning. So just a little background, most of this is pretty well been discussed with with the planning department and the planning staff. But again, we are taking the position ultimately that office buildings have been in for a rough term the last couple of years, and they are not going to get any better in the next few years, at least in our opinion, which is why we thought changing the designation from office to residential made sense in this particular area. Next. And that's just a quick layout, and this is a concept plan because, as I indicated, we're at the very early stage, but we anticipate that we would not locate more than 4 townhouse units on this parcel, and they would be 2 stories each. And that's a picture Dave Sutton Design prepared for us of what we propose. And again, this is a concept. It may change slightly depending on the market and the circumstances if this board decides to amend the comprehensive plan and ultimately rezone the property to multifamily. So the benefits that we've indicated in the application will provide the residents in the town with a diversity of housing in this area. Haven't had any townhouse developments similar to this in that particular area in some time. I will enlarge the tax base. The property is now just sitting vacant, and it will be well maintained and meet the intents and the objectives of the town's comprehensive plan in terms of conformity with the surrounding neighborhood. And next, in terms of the comprehensive plan, we've indicated in the application a number of reasons why we believe this meets the intent and the objectives of the comprehensive plan. In terms of creating an interconnected mix of land use, which we have here. We're surrounded by single family and commercial, and the townhouses work nicely in terms of the diversity. So all the rest of the information is in the application, and I ask the board for their vote to approve the amendment of the comprehensive plan to allow us to move forward with the rezoning.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to first, for anybody who's here about this project, I would just want to let you know, so this is the first time it's been in front of this board. We don't vote on land use the evening of the public hearing. You usually wait until at least the next board meeting. But this is certainly a project that I suspect there's some people to speak about. I'm going to first start off with the town board, though. Are there any questions about the project? Mike?
Thank you. Will these properties be ultimately for individual ownership, or are they going to be rented or leased out?
It's intended that they will be sold.
I understand it's still early in the development process, but I must ask, what do you think they would go for?
Right now, as you indicated, it's early in the process, and it'll all depend on the market at the time, but we suspect that they will sell between $220,000 and $250,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I also failed to point out that my client did meet with the immediate neighbors and had no objections. Now, of course, there could be somebody here since we've met that has a different position, but he did meet with all the adjoining property owners.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, is there anybody here to speak on this item this evening? Please come forward. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Dennis Hoban, 216 California Drive, Waynesville, New York. I was just wondering, is this limited to 2 stories? Sounded kind of vague there for a minute when the gentleman was speaking. 2 stories.
Yeah, right now we're dealing with land use.
10 units.
Yeah, so I would have to, I'd have to ask the.
How many units are in, how many condos are in a unit?
No, so it's 4 total condo units? Yes. Okay. And it is what do you suspect your height would be? It's a 2-story limit?
25 feet, somewhere in that vicinity.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else who would like to speak on this item this evening? Okay. Seeing none, I would motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Resolution 775. It's a continuation of a public hearing, a special use permit for Tier 3 solar energy systems at 800 and 850 New Road. I'm going to motion to reopen the public hearing.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
My name is Lee McIntyre. I'm a project developer with Sole Source Power, and I wanted to thank the Town of Amherst Town Board for opening the public hearing again tonight. This is a continuation of a public hearing from the past, and since the last public hearing, there are a few items that we addressed that were concerns from the Town Board. One was a letter of support from the fire department, which we provided, addressing their ability to respond to emergencies at the project site. We also hosted a public forum at the library at the beginning of October to hear and address concerns from the neighbors. We have worked with the Amherst IDA since then and have committed to a payment in lieu of taxes agreement in the amount of $4,700 per megawatt. This will total over $400,000 in tax revenue over the first 15 years of the project for the county, town, and school district. We also have sent to the town a community benefit agreement and committed to a donation of $40,000 for the town to use for green initiatives. We have provided to the town an agreement with a local farmer to provide co-location of agricultural services, sheep grazing on the site. That agreement was provided to the town, and we will be, as we discussed in the last public hearing, having sheep grazing to manage the vegetation on the site. Are there any questions from the town board members?
So we,
Can,
go ahead. I was going to say, so we asked at the last meeting to, if you could provide some information about drainage, and I had some concerns specifically to drainage on the front of the property along New Road.
Yes.
Can you address those?
Mark Kenward with Erdman Anthony Consulting Engineers. We have prepared and submitted to the town a stormwater pollution prevention plan, which included a drainage analysis of the site, and that drainage analysis concluded that there would be no increase in runoff from the site, and that existing drainage patterns would be maintained even with the berm in front, because the berm is not continuous. All drainage facilities along the highway will function as they do now, and this stormwater pollution prevention plan was reviewed by the Town of Amherst Engineering Department and approved.
Okay. Are there any further questions from the town board on this project?
the other thing that I spoke with you about was the screening with plantings. Can you share that with?
We have an extensive landscaping plan that was prepared for the site by a local landscape architect who at one time was employed by the town and as a landscape architect and helped to formulate the current solar development regulations in respect to the screening requirements. After the site is built, if there's any gaps found in the screening, it's been agreed that part of the approval, we understand, is going to require that those gaps in any screening be filled in and supplemented with additional plantings to minimize the impacts on view sheds for motorists and residents across the road.
Right, thank you.
Anything further from the board? Is there anybody who wishes to comment on Resolution 775, a special use permit for solar at 800 and 850 New Road this evening? I'm going to ask you to please come forward, state your name.
Hi, I'm Isabel Posner, 317 Ruskin Road. I love solar. I have solar at my house. And I didn't come to this meeting with thinking I was going to speak on this. I came for other reasons. But I'm curious, before we all jump on clearing open lots of vegetation and natural landscaping and putting up these huge solar farms, and I'm very uneducated about this project, so I apologize up front if I'm speaking inappropriately, but I'm concerned about clearing all of this vegetation and putting up these huge solar farms and saying this is for the best of the environment when we're eliminating natural land. So before we do that, are there environmental studies that are done on this first? I know you did a drainage study, which is great.
This is not the first hearing, and it's not a large solar project. They can answer some of the questions.
So the scope of the project I'd be interested in. And before we move forward on all of these solar farms, which I see popping up, I'm hoping that the town looks into other options, like perhaps putting up solar on town buildings or warehouses instead of eliminating natural landscaping. So it's just food for thought. Thank you.
If you're here for the public hearing, you don't need to sign in. Just state your name and address for record. Okay.
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. I'm curious as to who's going to clean up the sheep poop. I'm serious, because are you going to just let sheep feces pile up there? Because that's going to draw rats and any number of other vermin.
Okay. We're gonna ask the proposed developers to answer all these questions after you've had a chance to ask. Okay.
Will we have an opportunity to respond to their answers? No? Why not?
It's not a back and forth. It's a public hearing. We're here to record your questions and comments, and we will
should be allowed to have comments based on what they respond to our questions. What if they come up and say, we're not going to clean up the sheep poop? Shouldn't we have an opportunity to respond to that?
I would think the town board would want to engage at that point.
Well, judging by the looks on your faces, it never crossed your mind.
Do you have any further questions and comments?
I do, yeah, actually, because when you did the chicken, well, you people weren't here when they enacted the chicken law that allowed people to have chickens in residential neighborhoods. One of the things they seriously discussed, the town board seriously discussed, was who was going to take care of the chicken waste and how was it going to be removed. You people never even thought of it. You never even thought of it.
Okay. I just want to clarify, the town is not the petitioner in this case, but sir, please come forward. Go ahead. I ask you to state your name and address for record.
Ron Marconi, 89 San Fernando Lane. I have a question. What is the length of the duration that the solar farm is going to be operational? And who's going to maintain it during this time?
I'm going to let them answer that question as soon as, do you have any further questions about that?
The duration of solar farms basically is 20, 25 years, but they need maintenance during all that time. Are they going to be maintained? That's the real question. And who's going to do it and who's going to pay for it?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Are there further questions? Please come forward.
Hi, Tara Kim, 1315 Dodge Road. I had
Can you pull the mic down a
Sure.
little bit? Thanks.
Tara Kim, 1315 Dodge Road. I had a question about the animals that would be taking care of the vegetation then. Would they be monitored for heavy metal levels, and who pays for the upkeep of the animals that will be doing the grazing? Those are my questions.
Okay. Anything further from the audience? Please come forward.
Hello. My name is Sally Blazinski. I live at 905 New Road. And I just want to address again the issue of water issues on the properties directly across the street within a couple hundred feet. We've already had flooding on our street. The ditches get full. The ditches, they overrun. They come up halfway up our property. With the vegetation decrease across the street, it's hard to believe that it wouldn't affect the drainage there, that more water wouldn't come through. It's not going to get absorbed because there's going to be less vegetation. It's going to create a problem. That water backs up into our homes. If nothing's done about that, we're going to have a serious issues. Also, I know people aren't going to answer or raise their hand, but I'd like to ask if anyone in this room would be interested in buying homes that are within 100 feet of an approximately 50-acre plot of land loaded with 18 feet high solar panels. To be told, would anybody want to buy our houses?
You have to address this.
Okay, I'm sorry. But to be told that it's not an issue, that there's no proof of a decrease in value, I don't know if banks would give mortgages to somebody wanting to buy a house across the street from a solar factory. It's not a farm. They're not growing anything. It's an open-air energy factory. We now have a peaceful street. The environment is being completely changed. The neighborhood is being altered. And for what? It's not going to benefit Amherst. It's going to damage our property values. We won't be able to sell our homes. And to live there, we're not being compensated at all. We're just at a total loss. Even to get a break on our electric bill, we're told, oh, we'll file an application, maybe we'll get 10% off of our electric bill. Whoop-de-doo. But it's a serious problem for us. It's a quality of life issue for all of the residents that are 100 to 200 feet from the panels.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to comment on the solar farm tonight? I'm going to give the speakers an opportunity to address a couple of these questions. The first, so there are a couple of questions regarding the livestock on site. One of those is a maintenance issue regarding manure. One of those is monitoring of heavy metals and intake of those animals. And the third was animals, who's basically raising the animals.
These are all good questions, too. I will say this is the first time that this sheep poop has come up. So I will work on an answer for that, and I will give you my number to reach out to. First, on my list is the duration. It is a 25-year lease that we have with the landowner with 4 5-year extensions in it. We will be using about 27 acres of the property. And in terms of the environmental impact, we are leaning into utilizing the existing vegetation on the property to provide additional screening on top of the screening that we are also doing. We had a tree study done on the property, and what was found was that much of the trees on the property are diseased and dying. Because it's a very wet area, they have very low growth within the roots, so they're at risk of falling, damaging the equipment, and creating a hazard for construction crews. We will only be clearing and pulling out stumps for about 2.5 acres of the property. For the most part, it's cleared. This is essentially abandoned farmland that hasn't been used in many years. In terms of the sheep, we've contracted with a local farmer who will be taking care of the sheep. If there is an issue with any sort of sheep poop, for lack of a better word, the farmer is responsible for that. And if it creates any sort of public nuisance or any issues, or any of the neighbors or anyone complains, we do have to address that. We cannot maintain our right to continue production from the solar array if we don't address those concerns. It is rather expensive to contract with a sheep farmer. It isn't actually a break on costs. We still have to go in and clear vegetation twice a year at the beginning and end of the growing seasons. The sheep will stay on site and the farmer will be there likely once or twice a day to bring water to the sheep and to check on them. And the farmer will also be responsible for taking care of the sheep. There aren't any Everything within the panels themselves and all of the equipment is contained, so there aren't any chemicals or heavy metals leaching into the ground. We will be seeding the property as well with a pollinator seed mixture that is required by the town. This attracts species like monarch butterflies and bees. It's a recommendation from NYSERDA that we do this. Again, it's rather costly to do, but what it does is provide really good, healthy vegetation underneath the panels, especially for the sheep to be grazing on. There is an array on Shellis Road that was approved, and that array will also be using the sheep grazing. In terms of water runoff, we have addressed those concerns in the stormwater pollution prevention plan. By law, we are not allowed to negatively impact the runoff on the property. We either have to leave the property in its current condition or better, and there are continuous checks from New York State DEC and inspections throughout the construction process and post-construction to ensure that we are keeping up with those standards. Let's see. There is discounted electricity that is available to residents, anywhere from 10 to 20% off, and it's a simple opt-in on your electric bill if you're a National Grid ratepayer. The panels themselves are about 120 feet from the road. The fence line is set back roughly 100 feet from the road, and there is a berm with plantings on it that will be between the road and the panels. Was there anything that I am missing?
Lee, can you tell, since they're not familiar with it, could you tell them the size of
Sure.
the
Yes.
project?
So the project is a 5 megawatt project. It's roughly 27 acres. It's going onto a property that is currently vacant and in a floodplain. It sits about a foot below the floodplain. One of the interesting pieces about this property is that within the town of Amherst, there isn't a whole lot of land that is zoned correctly for solar. That which is zoned properly for solar is forever farmland, and then there's a few parcels that would be a good fit for solar and that you can still permit a site on. Within that group, there's even less parcels that would work because the electrical infrastructure does not work for it. National Grid doesn't allow you to interconnect solar arrays wherever. There's a limit on capacity. So this solar array will be pushing energy into the grid, and we will be upgrading the grid at our own cost. That's something that is across New York State. Developers pay for the cost of those upgrades, which helps our aging infrastructure to get more resilient and reliable, while also increasing the interconnection of green energy producers. There was a concern about the array, and sometimes we hear that it is an industrial site. It is, a lot of racking and panels. The panels are trackers and they move throughout the day. It is rather quiet. It's a neighbor that goes up in the town that creates tax revenue, in this case in the form of a pilot and a community benefit agreement. In addition to that, it doesn't tax the system. It's not sending any children to school. It's not requiring a whole lot of emergency responses. And it's generally bringing revenue into the towns, counties, and school districts that it's in. Is there anything else?
I have a couple of just follow-up questions, because so the question that was raised regarding the water issues, again, I know I asked you for clarification. You talked about the drainage study, no new introduction of stormwater on site. But I want to come back to this because at the last public hearing, what I talked about was the existing ditch issue and the existing stormwater issue. The road already floods. The ditches are already at capacity. So how does this project improve that situation, or does it simply ignore that? And assuming that it doesn't actively improve the storm drain along the road, which is what I believe to be the case, then how are we, supposed to deal with, basically accepting that there's no increased stormwater? I mean, you clearly are berming, even if the berm's not continuous. That water that currently sits in the ditch clearly can't wash into the field, which is currently lower than the road surface. So how does that water pool between the berm and the road? It's got to go somewhere. So that is still, to me, one of the biggest obstacles on this entire project, is dealing with the fact that we've already got a road that floods, we've already got ditches that get over capacity, and now you're basically taking out of play the drainage area, or the area that would drain into sheet drain. So
Mark Kenward, Liverpool, Anthony. As I've said before, the drainage study was part of the SWIP, reviewed by the Town of Amherst Engineering Department. The berm sets, first of all, the fence line sets back 100 feet from the road. The berm takes up about a total of about a half an acre of land. It is not continuous. Runoff can still enter into the field, and for the most part, from our study, we did not see any increase in the amount of runoff generated by the site, and the site would still accept runoff from the roadside ditch, even with the berm set back 75 feet from the road. There's still opportunity for water to run into the site through the breaks in the berm, and at the edges of the site, north and south, there's not very well defined conveyances on site, and we're not altering any conveyances. The runoff from the roadside ditches will still be able to enter the site. We are not changing existing drainage patterns. This was the basis of the drainage study.
do you have a site plan available tonight?
I didn't.
Tim, do we? So again, this becomes the challenge. So the subgrade, or the conditions underneath the solar panels, are they higher, or does it raise or lower the topographic values of the
grade of the
existing?
site remains for the most part unchanged. We do have to raise the equipment pads that are there's 2 equipment pads interior to the site. We do have to raise them above 2 feet above the flood elevation. There's also the entrance driveway and the interconnection equipment out near the front of the road. That's being raised up about a foot above the flood, and the interconnection equipment will be on pedestals to raise that an additional foot plus above existing grade. Like I'm trying to explain, there is some, it's well less than a half acre of area being raised above existing grade. If I had a laser pointer, I don't know if there's this. Pardon? I found it, I think. If you follow the driveway in from the site along the south edge, at the very western end of the driveway, you'll see a small equipment pad. That will be raised approximately 2 feet above, just about 2 feet above the basement on your flood elevation. There's also another equipment pad interior to the site near that T intersection of the access driveway. Around that equipment pad, that's also raised up. And then out at the entrance, driveway there is some raising of the existing grade to accommodate the driveway. But more importantly, you'll see 2 equipment pads on either side of that entrance driveway just to the north of where it comes in. They are only raised a foot above flood elevation, and the cabinets will be on pedestals to raise them up. So the pedestals are 2 feet. Bottom of the cabinet is 2 feet above existing grade, but we're only using 12 to 15 inch high pedestals for specified.
And I think one thing too about this, so as a whole on the site, underneath the panels is pervious. So we aren't putting down gravel. We're not putting any concrete to hold the posts in the ground. The only impervious pieces of the site are the concrete pads that Mark was talking about. So you can see the squares of the concrete pads on the site. And then I believe just the first 20 feet of the driveway is impervious.
It's about, now actually about the first 75 to 100 feet. The driveway, the town required that the driveway be paved up to the fence.
But typically, we don't put anything underneath the panels that would be impervious. If we were to do it, it's very costly to do that, and it's also very costly because it changes the stormwater measures if we were to put anything impervious under the panels. So there's roughly 18 feet between the panel rows, and underneath the panels is all pervious material so that the site can pretty much act similar to how it did prior to the solar installation.
So, okay, I get what you're saying about the drainage once it gets past the permanent topsoil storage piles. But I see channelization happening between those until water could hit, one of those breaks. So, I mean, I'm not convinced that this isn't going to just add to ponding issues at that point. You had another image of showing more of that roadscape or the streetscape. Could you just go to that?
You wanted the, yeah.
Well, that doesn't show berming though. There it is. See, so here's my concern is when you add berm to that, I feel like that area between the berm and the drain is going to sit very wet, and if we had a heavy rain or a heavy snow melt, we're still going to flood out the road. So I guess I'm still looking for positive drainage in that area. I have other concerns about the consumption of this particular parcel for solar for the next 25 to 30 years. I acknowledge that you seem to have solved or put to rest the bonding questions regarding potential removal of solar should the company no longer be able to maintain them. But I'd like to work a little bit more on this particular element of it, and I'd like to hold it open until February. I understand that means we need to set up some meetings directly, but I just feel like there's still some unanswered questions for me here. I don't know if other board members feel similarly or not.
So in terms of we had worked with the planning department to get an approval on the stormwater pollution prevention plan, or the SWIP. It was a pretty extensive process and back and forth with the planning department to get their sign off on that. And I think the town has a really robust planning department that did their due diligence on this. Is there, I guess.
Again, my feeling personally is that I'd like to hold it open till February and set up some specific meetings relative to the new road portion of the site, to at least push back some of the issues that I think I see happening here. And I'm not sure if there's, if the board wants to, it certainly could take an action later. But for now, I would motion to adjourn the public hearing to our first meeting in February, which I think is the 5th.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks. So the next item on our agenda was resolution 957. That's an adoption of a local law to amend the zoning map for 474 and 4780 Sheridan, the old Gleason site. We have been, the town board, over the past few, the past few months has been getting a lot of information, a lot of new information. We did have a piece of information that came to us as late as this morning regarding some of the materials or the hazardous materials on site. I'm going to motion to withdraw that item from our agenda.
Aren't we
Oh, sorry,
adjourning it to February 5th?
I apologize. I'm going to motion to adjourn it to February 5th as a decision date.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If you're here about Gleason's this evening, you may still speak at public expression about the item. Resolution 59 and 60, by virtue of us holding open that public hearing, a motion to adjourn both of those to February 5th as well.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We do have a couple personal appointments this evening. Councilmember Berger's appointing Richard Herman and Dan Howard to the Amherst Veterans Committee for a term to conclude 12/31/2025. Councilmember Lavin is appointing Joe Orzakowski and Tom Hurley II to the Amherst Veterans Committee for a term to conclude 12/31/2025 as well. Next item on our agenda is public expression. I'm going to motion to open public expression at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a couple of sheets. I appreciate everybody continuing to write fake names on here. I'm not going to read those if I can avoid it. We'll start with Andrea Morganti from 253 Woodshire, please.
Good evening, members of the Amherst Town Board. My name is Andrea Morganti, and I reside at 253 Woodshire Court. I am here once more as a voice for the Amherst concerned citizens. And as I have previously indicated, we are a nonpartisan group and do not identify with any one political party. We are here to be a constant reminder that we are no longer irrelevant and that we are going on at previous board meetings ends now. Mr. Culpa, you poked the bear one too many times, and by doing so, you have awakened our town. And for that, we, the residents of Amherst, thank you. Our grassroots movement is growing every single day. I have individuals coming to my home and asking how to join our group. Walking down the street, individuals have come up to members within our group asking what they can do to stop what is currently going on. So my advice to all the members of the town board is now is the time for you to be transparent. We are watching and we are taking fastidious notes. At the last town board meeting, I asked several questions about the LED project. Mr. Culpa, you indicated that you would answer our questions at the end of the public expression. And with all due respect, you didn't answer any of my questions. So I went out on my own and I found the answers to my questions. And here are the answers, and they have been distributed to all the residents in these chambers. As you can see on the screen, we have a chart that indicates the tax levy townwide. I'd like to bring to the attention of the town residents that prior to you taking office, the tax levy was pretty much a constant at approximately 1.3%. When you took office in 2018, you can see a steady increase every year. The tax amount in 2023 was $91 million. Now, in 2024, it is $103 million, and you wonder why we are upset. And please, don't give us some political rhetoric that this was already in the pipeline, like Obama blamed Bush. Members of the town board, one of our cardinal rules is that members of our group are to treat the board members with respect. In turn, we expect the same. We have sent in 2 FOIL requests to date, and you have not responded to them. This appears to be the modus operandi of this board. Respectfully, we are putting you on notice that we plan to go to the next level. The residents of Amherst will no longer be ignored. And Councilman Lavin, you want transparency? Now is the time for you to prove it. So once more, Mr. Culpa, we, the Amherst residents, are waiting for your explanation as to whether or not you plan on responding to the 2 FOIL requests by tomorrow, or do we go to the next level? And I did bring them with me.
So,
In closing, my fellow Amherst residents, when you pay your tax bill, on the memo line, put paid under protest.
Allison Segraves, please. Allison.
Good evening. I'm Allison Segraves, 171 Amherstdale Road in Amherst. I'm a concerned citizen who has become aware, particularly in the past 60 days, of what is potentially unethical behavior by this town board, as well as potential conflicts of interest. Here are 3 such examples. Number 1, the backdoor way you imposed an 11.4% tax increase, more than triple the cap that you are expected by statute to manage within. Number 2, lack of professional oversight and common sense for a $51 million streetlight project with a very poor return on investment. Number 3, the deceptive way in which the design and zoning for Amherst Central Park has been approved. Quite frankly, it's less of a park and more of a capital-intensive construction project and development zone, or what you call PUD, as you have zoned it. By the way, I suggest my fellow citizens join me in calling it not the Amherst Central Park, but the Amherst Central PUD. Since I only have 3 minutes, I will save that topic for a subsequent meeting. Given the above ethical breaches, I want to understand what the Town Board of Ethics is doing, which is why I stated at the last meeting that according to the Town of Amherst website, the Board of Ethics had not met since January of 2020. When I asked when the next meeting was, at the next meeting of the Board of Ethics, none of you answered. I came up after the meeting, spoke with Supervisor Culpa, who referred me to Councilman Lavin, and who asked me to email him, which I've done twice, and you said you would get back to me. I am waiting. Meanwhile, as per Section 19.6 of the Town of Amherst Code of Ethics, all town officials, department heads, elected, appointed, paid or unpaid to any board or committee are required to sign an annual disclosure statement, long form or short form, as outlined in the code. That is Code 19.6 of the Town of Amherst Code of Ethics. Please refer to it, my fellow citizens. Further, as per Section 19-8, annual disclosure statements shall be a matter of public record, filed with the town court for not less than 7 years. As per Section 19.9, on or before the 15th day of May of each year, the Board of Ethics shall meet to ascertain and verify that every required individual has filed the required disclosure statement. So my question to the board, have the disclosure statements been collected since 2020 for all of those required, reviewed for conflict of interest with actions taken as appropriate, and kept on file given that there have been no annual meetings as required by the Code of Conduct in 4 years?
I'm going to address the specific set of questions. So regarding the annual disclosure statements, to the best of my knowledge, every member of this board, of the Planning Board, Zoning Board, Historic Preservation Commission, the IDA, have submitted the correct paperwork. There's an effort every year to ensure that by the deadline, that all those boards and committees and that all of our boards submit those to the clerk's office. I've submitted mine regularly. This goes back to, to the board and the clerk's office working to ensure that all of those have gotten in. Regarding the Board of Ethics meeting to decide that or not, we're going to have to deal with that with the chairperson. They can call a meeting in May to declare that, and that's fine. Well, whatever, March, I don't know what the date was that she said. I apologize. Sean is so we just reappointed liaisons, or we are reappointing liaisons this evening, and we will all be working with our respective chair people to ensure that those meetings are met. So I'm going to answer the ethics disclosures. This board's taken those very have handled those very carefully. We will continue to. Okay. The FOIL requests were received. We've been working on those with our staff. They were very broad brush in terms of what they're asking for. It involves a lot of different people in a lot of different scenarios. One of them, I believe, was for documents off of town paid for cell phones. It didn't limit that to a certain scope of people. There's a lot of them, so we've got a lot of work to do, and we're going to continue to work through those FOIL requests, as we do with FOIL requests. So regarding the quote-unquote unethical practices by the town board, I'm not going to get into the terminology there. The streetlight project was $33 million. There's projected $3 million in savings annually. This town board's long believed that to be a good project. It was adopted in '22 as a project after extensive proposals extensive vetting and extensive decision-making. Regarding the zoning for Central Park project's been talked about since 2016. It's something that's undergone many changes with a lot of different input from a lot of different users. We believe that we have a good plan and that plan is meeting with the most or meeting the best set of conditions for the users of the town of Amherst with what we have to work with. And you know, I would ask everybody to please hold using words like unethical until you've actually looked at the practices themselves or until you've had a chance to engage. No, okay. Gina Gentry, please come forward. Gina, please come forward.
Mr. Culpa, my name is on the list further down, and earlier it was discussed by the...
Well, Gina, no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Gina Gentry's next.
Right, but we talked about decorum, and we can't talk about the board's unethical and the ethics?
I'm saying that I would caution people of throwing words around unethics, like ethics. That it's up to you how you want to proceed.
Well, I'm writing everything down, and we want straight answers. Thank you. That's part of decorum.
I think for the past couple of meetings we've been providing those. So. Gina Gentry, please come forward.
I'm going to try not to eat the microphone this time. My name is Gina Gentry. I reside at 65 Bissell Drive. Obviously, people are going to come up here and talk to you about the LED lights. They're going to talk to you about the Westwood Club, or Amherst PUD, as formally put. I want to talk to you about the respect. You sit up here, and I was at the last board meeting. You didn't review the rules like you did tonight. And the respect that we got from you last time and the previous times, you need to follow your own rules before you put it on us to follow your rules. And this isn't the first time, and I'm going to try not to look at them because I think that's why that rule was thing, because I had you stand up last time. But, I mean, Brian, excuse me, Supervisor Culpa, you are the highest paid town supervisor in, let me see, besides Cheektowaga is making $80,000, you're making $104. Tonawanda is making $90,000, they're close, but their tax increase was under 2%. Lancaster's making $72,000. West Seneca's making $65,000. Casilio and Clarence is making $76,000. And Orchard Park is making $84,000. Yet our county executive is making $121,000. He's running an entire county, whether or not you believe it's good or not. You are making $17,000 less than him running a town, and you can't run it to the effective quality that we want to. It is embarrassing to say that I'm from Amherst because it has bought so much from the news media, everything, because of your choices. I don't know about everybody else, but I don't enjoy coming to these meetings because I have to keep my board members accountable for their choices. I get that 45 seconds back to talk. And on top of that, I don't know, this whole bell system, I mean, I brought a bell because I'm going to make it very clear to you today what I'm asking you as a constituent and as someone who is a voter in this area, as well as these constituents back here. It is time for you all to resign. Every single one of you needs to resign your... Andrea, I don't know. I'm still unclear on you. Every single one of you needs to resign as of tonight because your time is up.
All right, John Trabert. John Trabert.
Sorry, I'm here to talk about the LEDs again. But the first thing I'd like to do is address Councilman Zuccala's comments at the last meeting stating that the taxpayers' opinions were irrelevant. Some taxpayers' input may at times be unfounded or misinformed, but it is never irrelevant. Taxpayer input should always be considered in all projects. And it's very insulting that you had said those words. Now again, sir, Mr. Zuccala, I'd like to talk about the LED project because you had brought up Dunkirk. I called the former mayor of Dunkirk, and he gave me the rundown, and he confirmed a few things. So that LED was a project, New York State-funded LED project. As an incentive, the city received a $100,000 check upon signing. LED Energy Solutions President Steve Holtz announced, the city of Dunkirk, that's blah, blah, blah. According to Holtz, there will be no money paid out of city coffers, and the thousands of dollars saved will pay for the project without hurting taxpayers. So you cannot compare what they did in Dunkirk to bonding $33 million in the town of Amherst. Also, Mr. Holtz told the council and attending citizens alike that the initial interest rate for this project was 2.99%. However, through the negotiation efforts of Mayor Rosas, the interest rate was reduced to 0. Talking with the former mayor, the Dunkirk LED project was part of a municipal restructuring program. New York State granted $1.1 million through the Hardship Community Grant. I realize that they're a hardship community, we're a well-to-do community, but had anyone applied for any type of grants? Dunkirk, another comparison, Dunkirk has only 1,600 poles. Amherst has 9,600 poles. You can't compare that. Their projected savings was $250,000. They did save in excess of that. They saved $300,000. No doubt about that, right? But the New York Public Service Commission also said that National Grid was overcharging, and National Grid lowered the prices. Dunkirk studied the project and was not going to do it until if they had to bond to come up with money. The project went forward because of the method of payment, which was no upfront costs, no bond, no payment to LED until savings were realized. It was bid out to 3 different companies, and LED worked with them, and that's why they went ahead with the project. I'm sorry for rushing. Now, Mr. Culpa, first of all, I have to thank you for responding to my email. You gave me some pretty good information. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy, though, between your projected savings and what the project is saying the savings are. In the Amherst B, again, dated 11/8/23, you said that the total savings would be about $500,000. In this total project summary, they're projecting the savings to be almost $3.2 million a year. what is the true savings? That's what we'd like to know. Because even if you have $3.2 million a year that you're saving, and you're bonding, if someone's saying $52 million in cost, that's a 17-year payback. The longevity of these lights, if you look on the internet, is somewhere between 10 and 15 years. Okay, you can nod, ma'am, but this is what the internet is telling me. But the big thing to remember is that street lighting projects have not been in service long enough to confirm any projections. The bottom line is this project went ahead in a hurry. There's different ways to do it. There's different ways to finance it, different grants, different funding. It's going to end up to be $52 million on the citizens' backs, and this is a huge part of the budget, and it's not right.
So, again, you know, we have gone through this project in extensively. The $3.2 million in savings that John's referencing is from our proposal, or from the updated proposal, I believe dated October 10th or something along those lines. I don't know where John went. 2022. That project is in line with, or that savings is in line with what our projected savings will be. The 500,000 annual savings that is in my column was relative to what I believe an early year offset would be. We do not have projected savings for 2024 in the budget. We weren't sure how fast we could do this project or what the winter would be like, and so we're very careful to ensure that we didn't create a deficit scenario on that line this year. I continue to respond to questions regarding the streetlight project, and we'll continue to work through that project as we move forward through the year. So thank you, John. Tom Mislin. What's that? Is there? Oh, okay. Tom Mislin. Tom left, okay. Jennifer Darren.
Do you need me to state my name and address, or? Jennifer Darren, 22 Box Elder Lane, Amherst, 14228. Can't hear me? Better? Okay, better? Is this good? Okay, great. Members of the town board, like those who have spoken before me, I ask that you reconsider this decision you took upon yourselves to go above New York state law and increase taxes by 11.4% without giving the people of Amherst proper notice that you were going to do this. An 11.4% tax increase is unconscionable and greedy, and you know it. Taxpayers should not and cannot bear any more burden for the misallocations of funds with the current taxes that we pay. People are currently dealing with increased costs, inflation, and while some prices have come down of basic goods and services, things haven't been this high since the early 80s, and this tax increase does not help that. Most people today are lucky to get a 2% raise from their employer annually. How do you expect anybody to afford this, on top of the price of gas and food? I'm not even including their monthly bills they have to pay. If I were to use basic math, an 11.4% tax increase for a dual income home, lucky if you have one, that only gets a combined total of less than 5% annual raise from their employer would not be able to afford this. Can you see how the numbers don't add up to suffice this 11.4% increased demand? What about those on a fixed income that don't get raises, like our retired community? Did you ever stop to consider people who take care of a loved one themselves and are not in a nursing home and the extra financial burden they take on from being a caretaker, no, why would ya? Because if you thought beyond your own personal gain, just maybe you would have thought twice about this increase. Here are some facts that I know that you know, but maybe some people in this room here do not, and they deserve the common courtesy to be aware, unlike the uncommon courtesy you showed the townspeople with this tax increase. When you, Mr. Culpa, were interviewed by Channel 2 News after the last town board meeting, you gave 3 reasons for this increase. One of the reasons was to go towards the Boulevard Mall. First of all, the Boulevard Mall has been in the sad state it currently sits in for years. So why do you care to do anything with it now? In 2019, both Douglas Development and Benderson Development purchased that property from the town of Amherst, while J.C. Penney, I'm talking, who is currently appealing the decision that you made to take it over through eminent domain, still owns their portion of the property, therefore no longer making this property ownership of the town's people. So why do you need taxpayers' dollars to help for improvements to the Boulevard Mall? It's privately owned. You don't need taxpayer dollars for a project in which private entities are bearing the costs. You, the board members, owe the people of Amherst an explanation as to why you are going to push, I'm talking, toward this 11.4% tax increase while the timeline of this and what's the timeline of this property update? If it's anything like the Delta Sonic project on the boulevard across from Wegmans, it's not going to be anytime soon. So again, I ask, what are you doing with this money outside of what you told the people and the news reporters?
Thank you.
No, everyone got to finish. That's okay. You can still hear it. What are you not telling the people of Amherst so willingly? I have something to say, just like the people before me.
There's a 3-minute time limit. There's a time limit.
Yes. But I have the right to say what I have to say, and I would appreciate the same common courtesy you're asking of me for you to bestow upon me. Please and thank you.
Everybody has the same time.
Yes, but I have something else to say.
Ma'am, please take a seat.
Do you want a motion to call it out of order?
Yeah, it's out of order.
Your tax increase is out of order, Mr. Culpa.
So I certainly did not tell a reporter that the Boulevard Mall was a cause for this tax increase.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. There's actually a recording of you saying that, sir.
I did not.
That's a bold-faced lie.
I've not said that at any point.
Yes, you did after the last town board meeting. Yes, you did. I have a recording of you.
I don't know what the cut was. That is certainly not something I would have said.
Is that not you that they were interviewing Brian Culpa?
The Boulevard Mall is a specific. The Boulevard Mall is a specific project that would be targeted using something called. It has to be a zero-sum project. It can't be a project that is cost negative.
We don't own it. Why are we taking the burden of that?
We've never owned it. The mall fell into receivership in 2017. In 2018, we worked hard to try to get the receivership company to auction it so that it wouldn't continue to sit there with no owner. It was auctioned, and Douglas Development bought a large majority of the facility. Benderson continued to own a portion of it. There's a portion owned by J.C. Penney's. There's some other project owners on site. However, the project continued to stall because the leases that are held by companies both in the mall and no longer in the mall include things like viewshed rights and parking rooms that make it impossible to redevelop. So the developers have basically thrown their hands up and said, we need help.
How much money do they have as developers? As business developers, how much money do they have to take this on? Benderson owns how many buildings? Get out of here.
The town's position relative.
I don't want to hear that, please. No more, thank you. No more.
Ma'am, it's my turn to respond to your question. You don't.
That's a joke.
the reality is that the mall's stuck because the developers do not have the ability to break out of some of these existing leases.
That's not that's not a us problem. That's a them problem. That's a them problem.
Okay, Jerry DeCosmo.
Thank you for the disrespect you have shown myself and everybody else in this town. Well, that's a tough act to follow. I'm going to talk about the Boulevard Mall. Can you hear me now? Good evening. My name is Jerry DeCosmo. I live on Meyer Road. I am here to speak about the proposed zoning text amendment of the Urban Renewal Area Overlay District. Can I have the map first, please? The district was proposed before the Planning Board last week on January 18th. This is apparently a new zoning district to promote development in a blighted area of the town, specifically designated for these purposes as the area of the Boulevard Mall. Do you have the map? No? I'm sorry. There was a map, and it shows 194 acres from essentially Maple Road all the way up to Eggert Road. I bring this to the people's attention because of the 4 exceptions that have been added to this district. These are the 4 exceptions. I'm going to read them. No public hearing by the planning board shall be held on any application for any land use approval in this new district. All notices, publication, and other requirements set forth by other laws, ordinances, or regulations of the town for land use approvals are inapplicable to applications within this district. The planning board shall not request further referral to other outside agencies or boards. Where Amherst Urban Renewal Agency, also known as the Amherst Town Board, following town board approval, submits to the planning department a certification that the application comports with the urban renewal plan as proposed, the planning department shall not have jurisdiction to change the number of proposed buildings or other elements deemed essential as specified in the certification. The town will offer that this is an effort to streamline the process, expedite development in an area that has been an area of blight. I suggest that this is an effort to bypass the people, the other town agencies, and the laws that were put in place to protect the integrity of the town. Also, at the January 18th Planning Board meeting, a zoning ordinance text amendment was brought to the Planning Board. This is to add the creation of a mixed-use District Center 10, which allows for buildings of up to 10 stories with a setback from the road of only 75 feet. This appears to be the direction envisioned for the Boulevard Mall area. This is what the potentially interested downstate developers are looking for. If this Center 10 were to be approved, when will these developers be requiring Center 12 or Center 15 to turn a profit? There's only one 10-story building in the town, the Marriott, built in 1981, 43 years ago, and no structure of that height has been added since. Could it be because it is inappropriate, not within the character of this suburban town? Luckily, there was pushback by members of the planning board against both of these proposals, and they were held over for further discussion. We see value in maintaining the town of Amherst, not creating the city of Amherst. And most importantly, ensuring the voice of the people, not silencing the people, promoting transparency, no more secrecy. Once this path is chosen, there is no turning back. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sean Yost.
Hi, I'm Sean Yost. I live at 484 Springville Ave. I'm here as a irrelevant resident. Yeah, I have a question to ask you guys. Do you guys really care about the residents of Amherst? Do you care about what we think about? Because I'll tell you this right now, you don't. Back last year, when all this thing was going on about the migrants moving from Buffalo to Amherst, I sent an email to each and every one of you, not you because you weren't on the board. Who answered me back? Not one of you. No one did. Actually, no, I take it back. I did get somebody. I don't even know who this person was. You know what they told me? Listen to WBEN and what you said to WBEN. So I went on there and I listened. You said, I have no idea. I don't know anything about this. The very next day, they were moving into the red roof. How in the world can you guys not know about this? So obviously, I sent another email to you. And guess what? I was ghosted. I was ghosted by every single one of you. So my thing is, you guys don't care about us. You care about your own agenda and what you want to do. And I'm sure probably, if we look deep enough, you all are getting something back from it.
Alicia Schreier. Alicia Schreier.
Hello, back again to speak on Gleason Nursery. I respect that people want housing in Amherst. I will remind the town board that according to Business First, Amherst issued 424 building permits for new housing units in 2022, most of any municipality in Erie County and far above even the city of Buffalo. According to U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey, Amherst is an old town with 20.75% of the population 65 years old or older. On the Nielsberg chart, over 7,000 people in Amherst are 80 years old or older. I submit that housing will open up for the next generation through natural attrition, but in case that is not enough, you are already building twice as fast as anywhere in Erie County. Robert Savarino, RAS Development, sent me a letter explaining to me his position on my objection that his project is not in the character of my neighborhood. He explained to me how he thought it was on page 1, and then on page 3, he told me that the new dwellings will be classified as condominiums, so a homeowners association can be formed. Okay, I look around my neighborhood, there is nothing there that could be classified as a condominium. Again, we are an old neighborhood with big trees, big houses, big properties. There is a big difference between an R3, which is what Gleason is, a big house on a big piece of land, and a wall of 30-foot structures that will run halfway down the back of Fleetwood Street, a street of one-story ranch houses. Gleason Nursery is one of several crossover projects from the now bankrupt Savarino companies. My point is that Savarino companies closed, citing ongoing increasing cost as its reason for closing. Once started, there is a potential for Gleason not to be finished on time or at all if RAS spreads itself too thin or if it finds the soil contamination to be deeper than suspected. To the best of my knowledge, brownfield cleanup does not include underground tanks. I keep asking what happens when a homeowners association cannot afford additional soil cleanup if it is needed. I found out for myself. Cited by Independent American Communities in 2016, the Carousel Tract in Carson, California, a ground cleanup was executed. 285 homes were built. Then as time goes by, the homeowners start to get sick, especially with cancer. That is linked to the ground contamination going deeper than suspected. Result, 8 years of lawsuits, millions of dollars in settlements for health bills and additional cleanup, and 6 years of cleanup. That mature landscaping had to be ripped up by the roots and cleanup performed around existing homes. These homes were not resaleable for at least 14 years. Who would want them? Town Board, this little project of 22 two-bedroom dwellings is not something that needs to be done. This is something you would decide to do against the will of the existing neighborhood. There is a potential for collateral damages. Who will be responsible? Will you be responsible for health care bills, for damages to existing mature trees in backyards of the neighbors on Fleetwood and DeVille that will have their root systems bulldozed out, for drainage, overload, for wildlife destruction? If it were your backyard, would you like a brand new wall of 30-foot buildings instead of a green space with wildlife? More importantly, if it were your children, your infant, your grandchildren, would you want to roll the dice on this ground cleanup? I can already answer that. No, you would not, because it would be irresponsible. You would not want it, and neither do I. Leave this old neighborhood alone so people who want to live in an old, mature neighborhood can still have somewhere to live in Amherst. Thank you.
All right.
This is not fun for me, and I know it's not fun for you either, but I think you're on the verge of wrecking my neighborhood, and I'm just begging you not to do it.
I do think the town board has a lot of concerns, both about density. I've heard from board members about density, and I've heard from board members about the brownfield issue. Those are the two items that we have not moved this project forward because of. So I would say, we're going to continue to try to figure out. Ultimately, we don't really want contaminant in the soil either. So there's going to be a quid pro quo somewhere here, and the question is, what do we have to do in order to make sure that there isn't contaminant, but that we keep something that is in character with the neighborhood? So that's what we're working towards, I believe.
Well, thank you for listening and taking all that we've said into consideration. And I'm going to say, when you do something in the character of the neighborhood, please remember, we're big houses on big properties with big trees. Don't mess up our trees.
Sharon, so I'm going to go to Sharon Kaleka. I'm sorry. Okay. Thanks.
Yes, Sharon Kalika, 88 Tristan. Since you moved this to the 5th, I'm going to say my thing on the 5th, but I do want to say something about the taxes. I did talk to somebody in the bank in Tonawanda. They also had the lights done in their town, and they said that their lights have cameras in it, too. They have cameras in their lights. Is our cameras that you're preparing, or have cameras in it as well as the LED? Is that a proposal that you're not telling us?
I'll answer that in a moment, but go ahead. Do you have any other questions?
Okay, that's what I wanted to find out, that Tonawanda, which is just as big as a town as Amherst, they said their taxes didn't go as much. They said that they must have had, they had a 4 or 6% increase, and they did this before, and they said this is something that's going to happen in all of Erie County. In general, they're just going to get to each town one by one on this lighting issue, which is something that the whole of Erie County must do.
So I'll just comment. So the what they're referring to are sensors. There's a node that's on each light that reports when the signal's out. It also lets you adapt the lighting level, so you can bring the lighting level up or down. And it has obviously a dark sky sensor on it, but they're all connected modules, so each light is a smart light and can connect back to a database and tell you whether or not that light is out, if there's a malfunction on it, if there's an issue with it. And that sensor is included on our lights.
Not a smart meeting camera watching us. It's okay.
It uses a Verizon node to communicate back to basically to a mainframe that says whether or not there's a problem.
There's no way after the fact, because I read in the B paper on.
Can I answer that?
I'm sorry.
Well, just on the other question, Tonawanda did not have the same budgeting, the same tax increase across the board. They are a homestead tax scenario, which means the commercial rate is taxed differently than the residential rate. There's a couple communities that are like that out there. Tonawanda is one of them.
Okay.
So their commercial rate and the residential rate are different, basically.
Okay, and there's like no way to, modify, I say the lights aren't broken, don't fix it, kind of thing.
Let me just clarify about the cameras. I was just going to explain to you that the node that's currently on the lights that have been changed, and over 60% of the lights have been done. I'm not answering that right now. 1 minute, I'm finishing the answer to her question. The nodes only have the ability to report back. If you want to do other technology, those are other programs. Now, in terms of where the lights have been done, I can't tell you the neighborhoods, but all of the main streets that have Cobra heads, those are the lights with arms, have been done in the town. So you've all been driving around under new lights.
All right, we're going to continue on. Karen Howard. Karen Howard.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening, Brian, Jackie, Sean, Michael, Angela. My name is Karen Howard, and I live at 194 Roycroft Boulevard in Snyder. I've been an Amherst resident for almost 38 years, nearly my entire adult life. I've frequently said that I've had the opportunity to travel all over the world and have never had a strong desire to move anywhere else. I love it here, but you are actively infringing on my love for this community. That's why I'm here. I'm approaching you this evening to follow up on an email I wrote to you after the last town board meeting and the letter I submitted to the Amherst Bee. Similar to every resident I speak with on this topic, I am thoroughly disgusted with the 11.4% tax increase for 2024. Angela, I do appreciate that you responded to my email, so thank you. But it was the standard line that Brian gave at the last meeting, and I'm looking for more. I brought each of you a copy of this, actually, so you can just listen. You don't need to take notes. I just simply believe that you have an obligation to listen to your constituency, who have voiced opposition to this ludicrous increase, and do something now to somehow correct the impact of it. Because there aren't over 100,000 Amherst residents here tonight, do you honestly think that those of us here are in the minority? No, the others are relying on us to represent them. We voted you into office and we trusted you. But we feel like you groomed us and are taking advantage of us by embezzling our hard-earned money for your special interests. This may be legal, but it doesn't make it right. We are realistic and understand the concept of inflation, but to raise our taxes by almost 3.5 times the New York State cap is deceitful and irresponsible. You need to operate our town prudently, and if we cannot afford your special projects with our normal tax dollars, we simply cannot do them. Based on resident reaction to the tax increase, it's apparent that as a board, you made a gross mistake in approving a budget that requires an 11.4% tax increase. It's time to acknowledge your mistake. Are you brainstorming? Are you brainstorming and researching options available to you to expeditiously correct it? Do you need assistance from New York State to figure out how to fix this problem? I realize that the budget deadline has passed, so what can be done? Brian, you already said that the hiring freeze and early retirement program won't make much of a dent. It seems to me that you need to seriously revisit the special projects that you've been endorsing. Amherst residents can't afford them. We should not have to fill your pockets in support of your frivolous spending. Also, like any prudent, I'm almost done. Like any prudent organization, do you have a long-term financial plan that estimates our future tax increases? What can we expect in future years? Given your lack of action on this issue since you passed the budget and up to this point, you act like this will blow over and we residents will eventually go away and leave you alone. But trust me, we won't go away until we hear your solution. So my final question is, when can we expect to hear your solution? Thank you.
So we do actively project forward. And I mean, the reality is with this current budget, we had a scenario where our non-tax revenues dropped off versus the rate of inflation on several projects, and we had a project like the streetlights already on the books. And so as we dealt with the inflation, and then from 22 into 23 dealt with more inflation, plus dealt with an interest increase on all of our short-term debt, while trying to keep staff at full levels and deal with a revenue shortfall. We had to bite a bullet this year. Now, the reality is the streetlight project, whether anybody in here likes it or not, the streetlight project is based on projections for out-year savings, right? There's a year where you have to make a debt payment, but you don't have savings to offset the debt payment. There are other things that are used to correct and right direction within government, and we are going to apply those. In years past, we've put in by mid-year 10% reduction in expenditures. We've done further hiring freezes. We've taken actions like that before. I suspect throughout this year we'll continue to take actions on those as we look at all of our short-term debt and hope and move forward with allocating it or reallocating it and rolling it into bonds and refinancing some of that debt. The reality is there wasn't a solution available to us, and
let him finish.
As we
let
move-
him finish.
Let him finish.
The goal is basically to create decreases throughout the year to offset this year's increase. So when will you find out? We'll find out as we get through the course of this year and we approach the next budget calendar.
So is there a chance that our tax could go down next year as a result of this to offset this crazy increase this year?
Our goal is always to create offsets. When we have had in the past, when this board, or at least the majority of this board, has faced a disproportionate increase one year, we have offset it following years. We do a lot to actively manage our budget, to actively manage our expenses. At that, I'm going to... Okay. Thanks, everybody. I'm good. Okay. Next is Kurt Fledgemacher. There's another list up there. Yes, it's on.
Good evening, Town Board, and good evening, fellow residents. My input here today is regarding town processes, actions, to shed some light on my personal times I've had with the town. I think it's important. My name is Kurt Felgemacher. I reside at 196 Hyde Park Boulevard. I'm 60, I've lived 59 years of my life here. I'm a retired New York State civil engineer. I'm currently a licensed professional engineer. I have my master's in business administration, both from SUNY at Buffalo. I have a concentration in management information systems. I went to UB. I consider it a gem of the Amherst community. Okay, this isn't about me mostly, okay? This is about the processes. Recently, I was contacted by a politician, a Western New York politician, to put my resume in for the town highway engineering job. Okay, this was 4 or 5 months ago. I was hesitant. I'm retired from DOT. I have a good life. But I said, you know what, I owe it to this town to try to help this town with the knowledge that I have. What I did for New York State DOT is I was in Region 5, which covered 4 counties, Western New York, Niagara, Erie, Cattaraugus, and Chautauqua. I was the program manager, the local project section. I ran CHIPS. CHIPS is the Consolidated Highway and Local Street Improvement Program. At the time, it was 157 municipalities that I dealt with, both the town and town of Amherst. We gave the money funneled through actually, that was a state program, funneled from the state to us, and we distributed, it was already allocated to them, but we oversaw the program that gave all the town highways their money to do things like sidewalks, both maintenance and capital projects. I also ran the Transportation Enhancement Program, a federal program that's 80-20. I also ran the multimodal program, a state program, several different programs that the town of Amherst could utilize. I ran the Legislative Initiative Program. All these programs which give multi-million dollars to municipalities to do infrastructure projects. The reason why I think this is an important example is because it pertains to the town of Amherst civil infrastructure projects, which are big town budget items. And this is piggybacking on what John Trabert had to say. You know, is the town of Amherst paying for it with our tax dollars, without looking for grant money that's given away constantly for these types of things? I don't know. But regarding applying to the politician asked me to put my resume in. I sent it to the girl that was the chief of the nominating committee for the Democratic committee. Never heard anything. A couple months later, the person called me, the politician, and said, "Did you get an interview?" I said, "No." The person was completely perplexed with my background. Over 30 years, I worked for a multinational engineering firm. I worked for the New York State DOT. I was a hydraulic engineer. I was a highway engineer.
Okay, so
all of that. So what this gets down to is I never got an interview.
Okay, this board didn't do that, right? That you're talking
I understand
about
there's a lot of
political
politics
nominating
involved.
committee. Okay.
I understand that. The process needs to be changed.
All right, thank you.
Like money processes. And I only came here today because I know people are upset about the 11.7 or 11.4 increase. And I know there's ways to manipulate that. You can do it with the tax percentage, or you can do it with your reassessments, okay? Maybe you could have reassessed first and then only raised the tax, go up 2%, okay? And maybe that would have been more palatable to people. I don't know.
Okay, all
But
right, sir.
Finally,
You know,
I'm
ask
getting
you
to
to wrap
the
up.
end. I question the judgment of a couple of other projects in the town. One of them is at Sattler Park, which is in North Amherst.
Okay.
They basically built deep dikes, real deep dikes around a baseball diamond. Don't
It's-
understand it. The other one I question is the one by Old Red Mill here. I don't know the name of the street, but they put in catch basins that are supposed to stop the flow of water. Rain garden. To me, it's an accident waiting to happen, and it's not very sightly.
All right, thank you. You're past your time.
Okay, I want to thank you guys for doing your job, and especially this part of the job. And I know it's tough. Thank you very much.
Okay. Sabina, are you here still? She was here. Sabina? Yep, she's there.
Dear board members and residents of Amherst, my name is Sabine Katt, and I live at Village Green. At the last town board meeting, it was mentioned that only a very small group of people disagree with the town's projects and the tax increases. After that meeting, I posted my public comment on the internet and received more than 3,000 clicks. They all supported me. We're not talking here about a handful aggravated taxpayers. These are thousands of people. Now my questions to the board. Mr. Kulpa, is the override of the tax cap only for 2024? Or do you have in mind to repeat that in the coming years? And my other question is, you said that there will be a reassessment of the Amherst homes this year. When the home value is reassessed, do you plan to lower the tax rate so that the homeowners don't pay more taxes in 2025 because of the reassessment?
Okay.
Ms. Marinucci, welcome on the board. I would like to ask you, if you had to vote today, would you vote yes or no for the New York State tax cap removal? I have a general comment about contracting. The town needs airtight contracts which do not expose the town to risk. The contract must be unambitious, without any wiggle room. Long-term planning can then be carried out on this basis, and the town and the taxpayers are protected from financial surprises. Question, how many contracts has the town with contractors, and how many of these contracts have a contingency? Mrs. Berger claimed to have performed a due diligence on the LED project. You did put the town and the taxpayers at risk by allowing a $13 million contingency and did not make the contractors absorb the risk. In the resolution to enhance financial transparency, Mr. Levis did not say how the public is made a part of the process and decision-making. Question, why did Mr. Levin exclude the public in the decision-making process? This exclusion cannot continue. We need a revision to the resolution following the lead of the city of North Tonawanda and other cities by installing a common council with final authority over budget matters. The mayor of North Tonawanda, Honorable Austin Tyles, wrote, ultimately, the Common Council has the sole authority to raise, lower, or alter any of the figures proposed in the board's annual budget. A Common Council is exactly what we need to reinstall democratic processes in the town of Amherst.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your attention.
Sure. I'm going to just... I'm going to offer responses to a couple of those items. The first, regarding the tax override, the override was in '24 alone. My hope and my goal is not only to lower the tax rate, but would be to try to lower the levy itself with the reassessment. The goal with the reassessment is to balance the town so that right now there's a disproportionate amount of tax that's borne on the back of residential, and we need to shift that back to being fairly balanced with the commercial. And the commercial is out of whack because of 2 years of dealing with COVID-related items. On the when you talk about tax valuation of buildings, we had a surge in residential tax value. Therefore, those closings and the value of the closings in our residential commodity have put too much burden on residential. So we need to shift that back to commercial. Okay. The second question, or I guess third question that you asked was about contracts. We have thousands of contracts. How many of them have contingency, I don't know. We do tend to write our contracts pretty explicitly, and without a lot of wiggle room. We have a good purchasing department that does that. Regarding the Common Council, the organization...
With contingencies or without contingencies when you say you do...
We tend to write them without contingency. The Common Council issue is...
Excuse me, we know that the LED project has a contingency.
The LED project has a contingency.
Ms. Berger told us this at the last meeting.
There's a contingency there in the LED project because of the disconnects between National Grid and the actual physical disconnects. So there is a contingency built into that project. It's also built into the savings, right? So if we do better against the contingency, then our savings increases. However, which we currently are. I'm just going to answer the Common Council question quickly. I don't know that you're wrong. I think Common Council is actually a good form of government. It separates the executive branch from the legislative branch. Right. So the executive branch is not the chairperson of the council. Right. It is, however, reserved to city government in New York State. We're currently organized as a town under New York State law, so we don't have a council opportunity.
What's with the town of Tonawanda when they have that?
North Tonawanda is organized as a city under state law.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a reorganization component to that, but I don't disagree there's a benefit to a common council. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. The question is, we need here check and balances, because this seems to us that all this is here very much out of control, and you do what you want and you use every loophole.
I got it. Thank you. I appreciate your comment. Okay, next is Bev Civilio. Bev. Sir Bev. Okay. Sorry.
Bev Cuviello, 91 Fleetwood Terrace. I'd like to address this Gleason issue. It's much more than what has been brought. And the more digging, there's been 9 women in the neighborhood that have been digging, researching, and finding things about the contaminated land in California and what happened to those residents because of the way everything happened. So one of the things that I want to bring up is an article about Colvin Estates, which is one in the city of Buffalo. Morano decided to do a development. They put brand new housing in the middle of a residential place. Old homes, grade level homes, new development, higher than the grade. Here's parts of the article. I will not read everything, but I will read parts of this article. It said here, they had to address some of the problems that sent rats scurrying, caused flooding for neighbors on adjacent street during the previous round of construction because the new homes' backyards are higher than those of the older homes. The next part. Colvin Estates land is higher than the homes on St. Lawrence Avenue to the north and Totten Place to the south. So after crews started clearing the land by removing 300 trees in the first 2 phases of the project, storm water from rain and snow had nowhere to go but down, right into the backyards, basements, and in the neighbors where it bubbled up underneath and ran into the sewers. The dirt, the loose dirt, actually went into their sewer systems. Dirt piled up behind some of the houses along the property lines. So when it rained, there was a river of mud that came into their houses. This is all things that we will experience in our little section of streets that are adjacent to this Gleason development here. It got so bad that somebody called the streets department to check the sewer because it was getting overloaded with this dirt. The construction activity also disrupted the wildlife, which had been in a wooded area, driving rats and other animals out of their hiding places. We had vermin infestation from mice to rats to things that I don't even know. They looked like woodchucks, they were huge, and they all ended up in our homes. That was all part of the Colvin Estates, which is something that we have been bringing up that is going to be a problem. The elevation of those homes, the fact that our homes are very low. I found something out just a few days ago that actually made me sick to my stomach. I'm just going to kind of show this to you. I think you guys can see this. These are all the trees. Like, this is when I look out the back of my house and my neighbors around me. We have all these trees. They're 100 to 130 feet tall. I have one neighbor that had to have one taken down because huge branches were coming down last summer. Cost them $9,500 to take this tree down. I bring this up for a very, very specific reason. The part that wrenched my gut, because I love looking out. I can look out and I'll see an owl sitting in a tree right outside my house. I found this article. This article from the arborist at Heritage Tree Care. Improper tree care during the construction can kill trees. Soil compaction is the #1 cause of death to residential trees. The damage happens during construction as equipment and traffic injure the delicate feeder roots to the top inches of the soil. All trees can be damaged during construction. They become stressed, and within a few years, they will be dead while your contractor is long gone. The roots. The trees must have lots of healthy ones. The ideal soil for trees has 50% pore space in the air and water. Heavy equipment, stacks of building materials impact the soil. Remember, 90% of a tree's feeder roots grow in the top few inches of the soil. Anchor roots can extend the distance from 1 to 3 times the height of a tree. Let's see, we've got 100-foot trees, possibly more. That's 300 feet. All of our trees in the surrounding area, it's like a horseshoe area. All of these roots extend almost 300 feet.
Got it, Bev. So you can submit that. We'll clock it in as a communication. It'll appear on the website. I agree that any construction has not only the potential, but it ultimately creates tree disturbance. There's very few ways to do this level of construction without disturbing the trees.
Right. And if I could please finish, just let me finish, please. Let me finish, because I have a point here. My point being, I have Between my house, my neighbor's house, and the next house. There's just 3 houses. We have over 20 of these trees. Once these people leave, once they develop anything on Gleason's property, it will cost me anywhere from $80,000, my neighbor $70,000, and my other neighbor $50,000 to have the dead trees taken down that any construction on Gleason's property will create. Our neighborhood is based on trees.
I got it.
Please let me finish. Please let me.
I got it. With all due respect.
Please let me finish.
With
No,
all due respect,
no,
if the
let
town
me
board-
finish. Please let me finish. My point being, we move into these areas,
Right,
most of us, in Williamsville, because it's
Ma'am,
historic to
you're-
some
you're-
degree, that there are trees there.
Bev.
Stop developing the
Okay,
places that have been here. It's not
Bev,
just
we
Gleason's,
have
it's
to-
everywhere.
Thank you. Thank you. Michelle Coffey.
Trees.
Michelle
trees.
Coffey.
The other thing that I want to
Bev,
bring up
I
is
got it.
that.
Bev,
Wait,
if the
no,
town
no,
board-
no,
Stop,
I-
no, it's time.
I
Your
want
time
this
is-
on
you're-
record. I
you're-
want
you're-
this on
you're
record.
twice-
Last Sunday night on
Bev,
DeVille,
please stop.
on DeVille, there was another water main break. They were there for 4
Bev.
hours. The next day,
Ma'am,
the
please.
Water Authority came back with 4 more trucks and worked for 4 more hours the next day. This is like 6 water main breaks in our area. We can't handle any construction. We can't
get it.
handle anything.
The town board has not taken an action on the project. If you thought the town board was so positive, we would have already done that, right? So the town boards continue to figure, but I got it. Thank you. You're way past time. I appreciate your comments. Please submit whatever images we have. I already did. Michelle Coffey.
Well, there are things that you need to be aware of as a group.
Understood. In your, in,
Yes. I'm letting Shelley step in for my spot. I'm going to be the
sure,
last.
Shelley Schretz.
I'm just going to sign the bottom. And one last thing, these are all signed signatures from the residents in the area that we worked through these snowstorms and windstorms for these
About
people,
Gleason's.
and they dropped them off at our houses.
Okay, thank you. We will clock them in. The town board has not moved forward with the project for reasons.
Kill our trees, you kill our...
Understood. Okay,
Don't kill our trees.
thank you.
Any construction, don't kill our trees.
Okay, Shelley. Just let it go. Shelley.
Shelley Schratz. First, I want to thank you for being here tonight. The Bills didn't win, but I want to tell you, the Amherst residents, we're winning. And we're winning because we're coming together. And we're going to let you know what we want and what we need. And that's what an elected official's job is. When the news was here, as Joe McMahon is telling them, oh, Shelley, she ran, she lost, blah, blah, blah. Hey, folks, let's be serious. I'm glad I'm not on this board. I don't want to waste my time on this board. I get things done because people like them, don't roll your eyes at me, people like them, Brian, okay, or like you used to be, they work together, okay? But this is crazy. This is really crazy. And Mike, all due respect, I've heard people say it over and over again since they watched it. Please say it louder. You should apologize. Because everybody is relevant. Everybody. How dare any one of us think anyone in this room is irrelevant? We don't have to agree. We don't. Apologize. When a person can't apologize, that's something that you're not secure about. And for that, I'm going to pray for you because that's wrong. All right, the reason why I'm here tonight is for these issues. Number one, You talk about the budget, you talk about everything else. Just explain one thing. Why do you think we have to spend all that money, Brian? Why do we have to finish Westwood like this and move that thing? We can pause it, and you know it should be paused. Every one of you should let these people come out and talk about it. I find it almost insulting to think that the Eggertsville group now is having little meeting charrettes starting tomorrow and then Saturday. You know, the Main Street project. If everyone went back and looked into how long you've been working on this Main Street project, just like Harlem Kensington, they should have been there in the beginning. When we look at your development strategy group that you have, there are no residents on it. There are only business people, politicians, builders, you name it, they're on it, but no people are included. You talk about all these committees. When I was on the board, the committees worked. You have taken that away, and your excuse, and Sean, all due respect, you put that resolution out, that day those things should have started. January 1st was how long ago? We are there now. You want to know why people are not trusting you? Jackie, I talked to the people that did the job with the lighting years ago, okay? You didn't do your whole job. It's not a criticism. The fact is we are so afraid to ask other people who have walked in these steps how they got there, instead of saying, I know I am it. The fact of the matter is, we don't have that kind of money, and you know it. You're talking about how we're going to have to do this, and this is short, and that's short. I don't know, how many of your budgets aren't a little short these days? Your budget's short?
Okay.
No, I'm not done. And then I'll walk away. And the reason I say that, for Joe McMahon to stand there and tell the news that I'm a Republican hack who I lost the race, I ran the race so they'd have a voice. And they got one. And that's why. So I'm going to finish. Mike Sakala, you told me to call you because you were going to educate me for some reason, maybe if I had one. You gave me your card. You told me to call you, okay? But we didn't. I didn't, okay? When we were up here about the immigrants and everything, you sent me a text message. And said, thank you. I texted both of you for what? Your response was for caring about the town. So don't criticize me for being here. Tell your Joe McMahon that I am here because it's my town. That's why they're here. So why do we have the money? Are there any reasons to move the museum? Do we need to move the museum? No. Let's pause. Let's solve our own problem. Why wait to go get a grant from the state? Because we got to pay for it. The federal government, oh my God, you owe somebody. You know how this works. All right? Commercial. Do we need to keep, well, how come we didn't bring why did we lower the assessment, I don't know if you know that, from 100% down to 60% several years ago? Why? To give everybody a break? No, let me finish. I don't need you to answer. Okay? I don't want your answer, because I was on the board and the assessment was always 100%, and nobody ever complained about their assessment being 100%. I find it's great, though, you're going to do commercial, because I know, because I'm up there, mine's going to go to $80 zillion on Kensington. You totally ignore that whole part of town, folks. Wake up to your first-ring suburbs and start paying attention. I'd like to know who the current controller is and when did the previous controller leave. That I would like to know, and finance is you, correct? Who's finance? Just answer the question, please, Michael. Okay, who was the previous controller?
Mike wasn't on the board. Was
Okay,
Darlene
who was
Carroll.
the previous controller?
Darlene Carroll.
Who was after Darlene?
It's currently Daryl. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so here's my question. You want the people to respect you. Every department head, Dan Ward, you can attest to this, the department people were here. And they were here, I don't want your answer. They were here to answer the people's questions, to keep you and you and you and you out of their business, because that's what they are good at. That's number one. Okay? The Main Street, Eggertsville. The Main Street, Eggertsville. You got these projects going on.
Shelley.
I don't care, because these people don't know what you're planning on doing. That whole part of Main Street and Eggert and everything you got planned going on down there, there's a plan. Go look, Jackie, go look back at the old plans since the 2021, and it's all there. It's all there. It's all there.
Shelley, without,
I promise I'm almost done.
you're way past time.
No, you know what? You're way past it because you blow the people off. They're entitled to say their things. I've been coming here since
Shelley, you
since
put in the
December.
3-minute time limit.
I gave you one day. Okay, here's the truth. Here's the truth. One meeting, at the end of the meeting, you came back and said, can you give me a little bit of your time? I listened to you for 3 hours in your office before the election as to what you were going to do in the town. Now let me say what these people have been saying to me because my head is exploding. Okay. Who's the current controller? Main Street and Eggertsville. One question for the town clerk. Okay. When I was on the board, the town clerk at times would be asked questions. And the town clerk, Sue Jaros, would answer them. When we were on the town board, if we were asked a direct question, we didn't have to wait for the supervisor or anyone to tell us we could speak. We looked at the supervisor and we said, on the question. They say, okay, fine. If a resident had a question, the board member wanted to hear what they had to say, or a department head, on the question. You have I don't know who gave this board, who gives you the permission, when did it start? They say it started when you took over. You say it started when Satish took over. The fact of the matter is, the people are back. It's not an empty building anymore, and you need to listen to them.
Thanks, Shelley.
It's not going away. It's not going away.
Okay, thank
We
you.
want to solve problems. We need to communicate, okay? Thank you.
Tara Kim?
Hi, Tara Kim, 1315 Dodge Road. I'm here basically to echo what everyone else is saying. Sorry, Tara Kim, 1315 Dodge Road. I'm here, I'm just as upset as everyone else with the tax increase over projects that are kind of an unwise use of our tax dollars. I'm a person, I sit in the dark most of the time. My living room reads between 60 and 62 degrees because I try and live in the budget that I have before me. And now I'm going to, I barely can afford groceries now with these increases. The LEDs, it was brought up that it's so important for the environment. I was wondering what studies were done and where I can find the information for that. All the research that I've done for LEDs, it's really bad for human health. It disrupts circadian rhythms and sleep in humans and animals, macular degeneration, mitochondrial dysfunction, increase in cancer. It shows a decrease in lifespan due to neurodegeneration. It causes headaches and migraines. It increases stress hormones such as cortisol, ghrelin, serotonin, and dopamine, which increases the cause of depression and anxiety, as well as obesity, which are, the American health is already suffering in those areas. We don't need something else that is going to increase that. It also interferes with people that have astigmatism, which is about 40% of the population. I really question that you guys are looking out for the health of the public, not just with the LED project, but with both the Gleason and the Westwood projects. The contamination that's going to happen, we're just going to have bigger increases in our cancer rates. I also had questions on if Westwood, or if the museum was to move, what kind of development's going to go into that area? Isn't it more cost effective? I believe at the last meeting it was mentioned that the whole point of moving it was because of some records building wasn't big enough. Wouldn't it just make sense to build the building that you need in the current location rather than relocate everything?
I'll respond after
Okay.
you're done.
And I also had another question as far as like the Gleason and Westwood projects. Are they close to where the old gypsum mine lines are? Because I believe back in like the 90s, they did some research for the sinking homes in Amherst, and it seems like right there around North Forest seems to be where a lot of those homes are, and I feel that people are going to be buying these homes that are just going to end up sinking, as well as causing other homes in that area to start to sink as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So to answer your question, the LED project went through both our Conservation Commission and our Environmental Committee. Those committees weighed in with regards to the project's vitality.
Actually, they initiated it.
And initiated the project. So ultimately, our town energy manager at the time participated as Mike Delamere participated as project manager. That's where that project started, and the environmental committee was the committee that reviewed that. With regards to the Westwood project, the question about whether or not the museum moves. I mean, the outcome was a recommendation. So the environmental committee began a project and ultimately, told the town board, or projected to the town board that not only was there an energy savings, but there was an environmental benefit to the LED, right? It cuts down the energy consumption, which in this area is still tied to carbon emissions. That was where, again.
They reviewed the health concerns.
You can, okay, look, you can, got it.
Where's the report?
It's in the minutes from the environmental committee dating back to like 2018, 2019.
No, it was before.
2017, 2016. It goes all the way, this project goes all the way back to like 2017 or before. 16.
It started in 16.
Technology, though, like how vast is this research, though?
I'm telling you, you asked where it started, what studies were done. So that was prior to me being in office that those studies started. The project started then.
So they were prior to you in office. You implemented it and raised our taxes.
Okay, all right. I'm answering.
It has implications of health benefits on all of our residents.
Got it. All right. I'm answering the.
They deserve answers.
I'm answering the questions that were asked here. So again.
Answer the question.
Right.
Hard facts. Answer her question. Hard facts.
I'm answering the questions that were asked at the podium first. Regarding the Westwood project, the question about the museum moving, and whether or not that happens, ultimately, there's a study, not a study, there's a state mandate as to how you have to maintain records. The town used to maintain records in a building called the Mennonite Meeting House further down on Main Street. The town sold that building years ago. The records were moved, all of the archive was moved to the Nike base. If you're familiar with the Nike base, they're temporary wood buildings that were built back in the 50s and 60s. And those buildings are not equipped to maintain long-term archives. We have one building in the town that is currently state acceptable to maintaining long-term archives. That's the current museum building. So the question is, do we build a new building, because we can't just put all the archives into the museum building, it's still the museum. So do we build a new building off-site or somewhere else, or do we build a new museum building? And either way, we're building a new building. We have to build a building. The records can't stay in the Nike base. It's completely an inappropriate building. You couldn't condition the Nike base correctly to house records long term. So we have to build a record center somewhere, or we have to build a museum building somewhere, period. That was the decision at hand. The next item, the amount of storage and archive for a town our size is immense. Regarding the gypsum mines, that Westwood is not built over gypsum, it was not, and Gleason's are not known gypsum mine areas. However, both of those had suspected contaminants from pesticides and herbicides. Gleason's is one that we're frankly just learning a lot about. Westwood is one that was pushed into a brownfield tax credit program by its prior owner. However, the concentration levels don't seem to arise to what the brownfield would actually project, except for on the greens and tee boxes. So the old greens and the old tee boxes, which were artificially raised, then were chemically treated, is where we have concentrations of contaminant. The problem with Westwood having contaminants is that it lies proximate to Ellicott Creek, and its soils are it's in a natural watershed, right, for Down Creek. So we don't want contaminants in that spot. And that's something that we're working towards, is trying to figure out exactly what is there. We don't think the concentration levels are that high, but we want to get rid of what is there. So that's the answers that I have to the three questions that you asked. Thank you.
I'm still a little confused on the health of with the LEDs, like the environment
study,
versus health of the people.
You have to go back to 2016, 2017 environmental committee minutes. I don't have those readily available, but
Are you? Did they compare the two?
The committees reviewed reports and records, and people came and spoke, sharing their concerns. There are differences of opinion, but the majority says to go ahead with LED. Nationwide, it's happening. The Sierra Club supports it. Many groups support it, and we are moving ahead, and we looked at health risks.
Okay, great. We got it. So I'm going to move on to Kimberly Gable.
I did read the studies.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Gable. I live on President's Walk in Williamsville. Thank you very much for your time this evening. It's getting kind of late, so in the interest of brevity, I'm going to kind of shorten mine a little bit. I just have a couple questions involving these illustrious streetlights. I'm assuming we own them, correct? Is that how this goes? Okay. Is the Highway Department responsible for maintaining them then?
No.
Who is responsible?
We're currently under a warranty, and the group doing the installation, or the Power Authority, is responsible for maintaining them.
Okay. Because do you know what kind of time frame we would have for repair and replacement? The reason I ask is there's already two out directly across from where I live, right near Maple. There are two, and they are the replacement lights. I've taken pictures. I've gone in the morning. I've gone at night. They do not light. They were lit originally, but they now are no longer. And if this is going to be a continual issue,
there have been a couple of the LED streetlights that have gone out. When they get reported to us, we have the contractors go back out.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what the status of those two are. Some can be fixed very readily, some require a little more attention, but I can't answer the question off the top of my head. But as they're reported, And have you reported them?
No, because I literally just noticed this Sunday morning, and then I went back Sunday evening, and I checked again this evening. So this
Okay.
is,
I need it reported, and then we will follow up.
okay.
If you si- until the, so we'll look at what the reports are. but-
Yeah, it's the one directly across from where Fox Point comes in,
until
and
the-
then a one at
I was gonna
Exeter.
say, until the system's built out, we're not going to know exactly how the reporting's working, right? So that the reporting happens on the back end of the system being completed. So which units are they?
The one directly across the street from where Fox Point empties into Maple, and that entire area now is like black.
Okay.
And then as well, the one at Exeter, which is the next one up. Then after that, going toward North Forest, they're fine, and going toward Hopkins, they're fine.
Thank you.
But those two are out completely.
So Fox Point and Exeter, right, I know that, but
Okay. Okay, all right. And it is, I mean, just in the element that it is a little concerning, these are just put in and they're already failing. That is a little
they are
concerning.
not failing, they may need to be reset.
Okay.
But I will follow up on these tomorrow.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That I will leave it at that tonight, just in the interest of moving it along. Thank you.
Lisa Galasso. What? What's that, sir?
You indicated these are smart lights.
The smart-
Supposed to be
yeah.
transmitting and sending when they're out.
Right.
However, you just
I-
indicated, and I believe you said, that you don't understand how they
No.
work.
I'm
There's
gonna.
60%
Let-
established,
let-
and you don't understand.
Let me repeat. Thank you. So it's a Wi-Fi mesh network that operates the signal, that operates the nodes. Until we have the entire system complete, we won't have the smart reading components online.
We have some, but not all.
That's what it is. Okay. Thank you. Ma'am, go ahead.
My name is Lisa Galasso. I live at 1442 Worley Drive.
Lisa.
Can you repeat that now that it's quiet?
My name is Lisa Galasso. I live at 1442 Worley. I just wanted to follow up with like these LED fluorescent, these LED lights that we're paying for that I didn't know we were going to be paying for. Was this something that we needed to do, or is this something that you wanted to do? I mean, did we need to have LED bulbs, or what was wrong with the other bulbs? What bulbs did we have that weren't good enough?
I'll answer the question once you're done with
Okay.
all of your questions.
Okay, so that was one of my questions. Another thing that I wanted to bring up about these LED bulbs, like how you're going to dispose of them, because there's lead in there and cadmium and nickel and different things, and just want to know how they're going to be disposed of. And
Okay. What other?
okay, that's a good question. And also, I want to know, is any of our taxpayer dollars going toward, because there's all these illegal immigrants here now in Amherst, I want to know if any single dollar that I'm working for, which is over the past 3 years, my salary has gone down because I've lost business because of this wonderful economy that we have. So,
Okay. Are those
That's it,
those?
yes.
Okay. So to answer your questions, did we need to do the project? The project started again back in 2016 in committee, advanced in 2017 through departments, and became a project that prior town boards wanted to move along. So they placed project managers in charge of them. In 2018, 2019, we continued to look at studies, RFP process, had a lot of input from state agencies, NYSERDA, Power Authority, UBRI, regarding the projects. The project, as I said, the project pencils to savings, creates savings even with costs of ultimately a fairly expensive recycling program for the materials that you mentioned, which have to be recycled like any other electronic. And it still pencils to a savings with a 10-year payback and then greater savings in out years. So the town board decided to move ahead with that project in 2022.
When do they anticipate these savings start to take effect?
Next year in 25 is when we start to recognize the savings benefits. Regarding the migrant issue or the asylum seeker issue.
Illegal immigrants is what it is.
Regarding that, no, the town of Amherst, your town of Amherst tax dollars not go towards any programs related to that. That said, you know, their living expenses are paid for by New York City, and you know, there's obvious expenses incurred at state and ultimately school district levels. So there are taxpayer dollars that go towards that program. There are no town of Amherst lines used to pay for or administer any of that.
So how do we find out how much of our taxpayer dollars are going
From the state level,
toward, you know, because they're here?
It's state representation you have to talk to about that. I mean, the
Erie County isn't spending any money either.
it's, again, this, okay. The town of Amherst there's nothing in a budget, there's no allocation, there's nothing from the town of Amherst where we have direct expenditure for it.
So this 11.4 tax increase, I mean, because my income has gone down over the past like 3 years. I have 2 children that live at home who are now chipping in on groceries with me, which, mind you, my 2 young sons are paying each almost $300 a month just to help me pay for groceries. I canceled my TV. I mean, this is just getting to be, I don't know how any of you people are, but I have never in my life ever been at this low point. And it's humiliating and heartbreaking for me to be in a situation that I once lived a very nice, wonderful, beautiful, comfortable life that I no longer live and have to, at 56 years old, go and get a 3rd job so I can keep my house and pay. So I don't know how all of you people are, but that's where I am. And for you to raise, I haven't gotten a raise. I've lost money. My business has lost money.
I understand.
I'm sick. I don't know if anybody else is in this situation. I'm assured we are.
You don't walk in our shoes.
I lived a nice, comfortable life. I don't have that anymore.
Look, I get it.
Raising our kids in these homes. We want to stay in Amherst, but we can't. You're forcing us out. You're forcing us to a trailer park.
Okay. All right. Now, this town,
People from California, New York City will buy their houses.
this town board has never increased our salaries.
I'm sorry, you've what?
I said this town board has never increased our salaries. There was a somebody made that statement.
Okay,
So
well, try living off of something
I get it. I
that is,
understand.
like beyond poverty, which is pretty much where I am right now. I don't do any extras.
Tom Weisbeck, you're next.
Tom Weisbeck, 48 Roberts Court. I just wanted to ask you a couple questions. One is about a street lighting tax. What was it this year?
I don't know offhand, Tom, what the,
I mean,
It depends on your lighting district, what your streetlight taxes are.
the whole town is the same. It's.
No, it is not.
Okay.
There is a townwide,
No problem.
there's a townwide lighting district where we all pay a little something. And depending upon where you live and your lighting district, there are different taxes.
$2.9 million for the street lighting of this year. If you look at the previous tax, it was lower, but,
I don't know
I
what
have
you're
another question.
talking about.
Did you
Ken.
look, before you did this, did you look into the option of just having National Grid? You could opt in, it's called. They replaced the lights, their cost, and you wouldn't own the streetlights. They would do it. You could have done that, and it would have done it, and it would have saved all this tax increases. You know, so for next year's budget, what do you think our street lighting going to cost? The total cost for the town? It's 3.9. That's what I looked at. It was 3.9 for this year.
the overall the budget's gonna come down on lighting because of the savings. There's an offset.
What is it going to be?
The cost of energy is going to drop. I told you that the projected value was $3 million a year.
How much?
The projected value is $3 million a year.
And when does that come into effect then?
I said that in 25.
Okay, so our street lighting, all our taxes on our street lighting is going to go away? You tell me?
I'm telling you, the street lighting tax is going to go down significantly.
Yeah, but you're saying it.
Tom, there's still debt on it, right? There will be a decrease, but you've got to look at it in terms of bond diminishment, and then ultimately, it drops off. So yes, eventually it drops off.
Will it be in my lifetime?
It's a decade for full maturity.
Well, let's hope I'll be there. But, okay, so now you don't have anybody doing any work we're not going to create a street lighting department then in the town?
No.
Is that what you're looking for? To
No.
create a street lighting, or are you going to do it all contractors?
All contract. We were under contract with National Grid. We'll be under contract moving forward.
Well, that's a different, the National Grid's a utility.
Understood.
So when I look at my taxes next year, it's going to go down? 2025?
That's the goal.
So are you up for a reelection?
I'm not.
What about you, Jacqueline?
Yeah,
Are
we're
you
getting.
looking to go any other places?
We're getting.
I mean, I can tell you.
Getting to a place where we're out of order.
11.4% tax increase.
Understood.
It'll be tagged to your whole career as politicians.
I'm not planning on a career as a politician, but thank you.
I'm just letting you know. Well, I mean, if you change the law where you can run again,
No,
I'm just.
You're projecting something. Okay. Dennis Hoban.
Thanks for letting me speak too. Thanks for letting me speak. I figure you're going to let me speak at the last term. You're a resident.
Dennis Hoban, 216 California Drive, Williamsville, New York. I assume everybody can hear me. I love this. 156 million we spend on our budget, and they don't have a PA system that works. It doesn't work real well. I'd like to address one thing that Brian brought up not too long ago at a meeting. He said that one of the reasons he raised the taxes is because they hired 17 police officers. And I got to tell you, we have a great police force in the town of Amherst. We really do. However, they hired 17 new police officers. What Brian neglected to tell you that was like 20 retired, okay? So he didn't hire 17 new police officers. He was just replacing a bunch of the ones that retired. He was trying to, it was very deceitful. And, you know.
Dennis, you're way out of order on that.
How can I? This is my time. Wait a minute. You actually said before you weren't even going to answer our questions, and this is my 3 minutes. So do you want me to? Here, go ahead. Start my 3 minutes over. I'll sit down. You talk, Brian. I'll sit down.
Brian Rusk, you're next.
You tell me I can talk, Brian?
Dennis, sit down! Sit down!
Start it over again. Fellow techs. Oh, they cut the mic.
Brian, go ahead. Dennis, you're out of order. This is your last warning. Dennis, your last warning. I'm going to ask you to leave and have you escorted out. That's your last warning. Okay, gentlemen, could you get rid of him, please? Dennis, thank you. Dennis, I appreciate it.
The right to freedom of speech is not unlimited.
Thank you, Dennis. Dennis.
I'll sit back down, but I can talk. I want my 3 minutes. It's in the Constitution.
Dennis.
Are you in the military, sir?
Brian,
In the military?
your 3 minutes.
And you swore an oath when you took this job. Follow the Constitution.
Dennis, sit down.
I'm Brian Rusk, 340 Wellingwood Drive. I signed it at 6:45 as the fourth speaker. I don't understand why I'm 14th. Good evening, town board members and the general public. I'm Brian Rusk, the Amherst Republican chairman, representing 23,482 Republicans in Amherst. It seems the town board does not think our 23,482 Republicans even exist. Never has Mr. Culpa reached out to the Amherst Republican Committee. Even President Joe Biden meets with congressional Republicans. The one-party Democrat town rule has given us an enormous, unnecessary 11.4% tax hike. I just got my town tax bill today. My income did not go up 11.4% as you raised my town taxes. Regarding migrant costs, each student costs each school district $22,000 per student every year locally. In 2006, a bipartisan town board passed a two-term limit for elected officials. In 2023, all four town board candidates, including Mr. Sugala and Ms. Marinucci, and they pledged to support a two-term limit. Rumors are now flying in this Amherst Town Hall that Supervisor Brian Culpa is talking of changing the two-term Amherst Town Board limit. This two-term limit was sponsored bipartisan by Democrat Dan Ward and a woman who spoke here today, Republican Shelley Schratz, 17 years ago. Mr. Culpa, a yes or no question. Will you live within your two-term limit as Republican Supervisor Barry Weinstein did? Yes or no?
Yes.
You will.
I've never said I would turn.
No, I heard you talk about town clerk and highway superintendent. This is the first time I've heard you say you will live within your two-term limit, and we will hold you accountable. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Business and then go back to.
My name is Dennis Hoban. I live at 216 California Drive, Waynesville, New York. Fellow taxpayers of Amherst, these are exciting times. Not because of the innovations and the projects of Brian Culpa and his Amherst Town Board, but because most taxpayers in Amherst have never attended a town board meeting. This has suddenly changed. Residents are waking up and demanding answers, due mostly to the inappropriate and unacceptable increase in property taxes, as well as unparalleled spending by this board. It matters little if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, rich or poor, black or white, God-fearing or atheist. What does matter is what this board is doing. I urge all of you who live in the town of Amherst to attend these meetings. It is a real eye-opener to learn how we are being treated, or better said, ignored, and how our tax dollars are being spent. I believe at the last meeting, and perhaps at this meeting as well, residents who wish to attend were being turned away by the police due to room capacity limits. If that is indeed correct, then appropriate action must be taken to relocate these meetings to a venue that can accommodate more residents. Just this evening, I saw at least 75 people that didn't have seats. There was an older gentleman here that could hardly walk, and I gave him a seat here in the front. Well, they really don't want us here. Come on, let's be honest.
Please address the board.
Williamsville High School, wait a minute, let's see, perhaps one of the high schools that has an auditorium able to hold a minimum of 500 to 800 taxpayers would be more appropriate. I was going to ask that they put this graph up that one of the first speakers had, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you could see that, from the graph, like the amount that we're paying in taxes, it just went off like a rocket when Brian took office. I think it's, pretty obvious. I address these remarks not to the board, actually, but for they are indifferent. I speak to the residents of Amherst, the beleaguered taxpayers, homeowners, renters, our seniors on fixed incomes, and to parents of young families. Join us today in this battle to hold the town of Amherst Town Board accountable to its citizens. They are not representing us. They work for us, but they are not working for us. They have proven themselves to be deceitful and untrustworthy, consistently disregarding the voices and concerns of their constituents. And to the members of the Town Board of Amherst,
Dennis, thank you.
if you cannot devise a budget which conforms to the tax cap, I call on each of you to resign. Thank you.
Gene Civic. Gene's not here. Matt Plunkett.
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. Mr. Yost spoke earlier before about how none of you folks seem to have the interests of the people of the town at heart, and you rolled your eyes and everything, as you always do. And they had a perfect example of it here tonight when I stood here earlier and asked who was going to clean up the sheep poop at the cell tower, solar panel site, and none of you had even thought of it. That's how little you think about the people of this town. Interestingly enough, the people from the company hadn't thought about it either. She acknowledged that. And 1 minute she said, we never thought of that. But then she said, the farmer's going to clean it up. Well, when? How? Does anybody know if the farmer's willing to do that? Has anybody talked with them about that? That's just one issue. That's just one example of the fact that you people don't even think. And
they are experts on manure.
Okay. That was a pretty good line. Mr. Culp, I got to say, and as I said back at a meeting in December, I worked for this town 20 years ago for 7 years. I never in a million years could imagine a situation where the supervisor of the town of Amherst would sit in a public meeting and not know the name of his town comptroller. That is absolutely flabbergasting to me. That is shocking. That is shocking. Oh yeah, yeah. Mr. Culpa, earlier you were explaining the tax increase. It was all about inflation. You mentioned inflation. There was inflation. There was inflation. There was inflation. So let me finish, please. Let me finish, and then you can speak. You mentioned it at least 3 times in about 30 seconds. Inflation, inflation, inflation. And then every day I sit at home and listen to the President of the United States saying there's no inflation in this country. Now, which of you is fibbing? Which of you is fibbing? You or the President? You know, so that's one thing, okay? You know, and folks, you know, I know they're talking about a reassessment next year. Don't get caught up in the assessment game, because that whole assessment thing plays right into the hands of these people when it comes to raising taxes, because it pits homeowner against homeowner, business owner against homeowner, a charitable organization against business organization. The last thing you want to do is get caught up in the assessment game. All that matters is the levy. How much are they spending? Make them stop the spending. That's what needs to be done here.
Michelle Coffey. Michelle.
Good evening, Board. Can you hear me? Great, thank you. First of all, the gentleman at the beginning of the meeting spoke about decorum. I was very upset the last meeting. I am still upset, probably even more. But for you to call me a piece of work to your board members by mumbling that to numerous people in the audience that saw you say that, and then you referred to me as a welfare case and that I need social support. Wait a minute.
Nobody said that.
Oh, you did.
No.
You did.
Not. I've
You know
never
what?
used that
Don't
terminology in my
rebut
life.
what you did say.
This
whole thing about decorum, this whole thing about decorum, you want us to respect you? Let me just say a few things here. We've been gathering for weeks, for months, about the 11.4%. No one can afford it. I voiced that the last time. There was a woman here who said she had 2 sons. She doesn't pay her TV bill, and her young sons contribute to the household with $300 in groceries apiece. And as you know, I'm not a welfare case, just so you know, but I own a home. My daughter attends the University of Buffalo. Pretty soon, she's not going to be able to go to college. I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage. Here's another question, and I wish I would have been up here in the beginning. Veterans get a 10% discount on their property tax. Men and women who have served our country. What does this do to them? Where is that coming from? Most of them are on veterans benefits, compensation, Social Security, disability. Did you think of them? Did you think about the young people that can't buy homes because of the high interest rates? Now forget it. My daughter's not going to be able to buy a home. And don't roll your eyes at me, because I don't deserve it, and nor do these people.
Okay.
This has to stop, and you need to resign, this entire board. And stop rolling your eyes and disrespecting me, because you're disrespecting everybody else.
At this point, I'm going to motion to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to close public expression. There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. There's a consent agenda this evening. So we have a second. We have a second round of public expression momentarily. We have a consent agenda this evening. I'm going to ask our town clerk to please read the consent agenda.
Supervisor Copa, 1, 2. Councilmember Berger, 1, 2, 3, 4. Councilmember Zakala, 1, 2, 3. Town Attorney, 1, 2. Town Clerk, 1, 2. Building Maintenance, 1. Comptroller, 1, 2, 3, 4. Contract Compliance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Economic Development, 1. Highway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Human Resources, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Information Technology, 1. Planning, 1, 2. Police, 1, 2. Senior Services, 1. Sewer Plant, 16, 1. Youth and Recreation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Communications, 1 consent, 2 consent, 3 referred to attorney. Public Improvement Permits, 1 consent, 2 consent, 3 consent, 4 consent. Thank you.
A motion to approve the consent agenda as it appears.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'm going to motion to leave the agenda for the purposes of dealing with one suspension item regarding fire cancer benefits.
Second.
All in favor? I'll read this in. Whereas the New York State Legislature mandated cancer coverage for volunteer firefighters effective January 1st, 2019, and whereas the town of Amherst adopted December 10th, 2018 resolution 2018-1292 approving basic mandated cancer coverage from the Hartford Life and Accident Insurance Company. Now therefore be it resolved that the Amherst Town Board approves and renewal of the basic cancer coverage through the Hartford Life and Accident Insurance Company policy 681360 administered by AIS administrators, and payment of the total of $41,451.43. Approval is pending successful completion of the contract routing system process to the fact that the policy went into effect January 1st, 2024. Financial impact F8055, $41,451.43. It's a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'm a motion to return to the regular agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Next, I'm going to motion to open a second round of public expression. It's an opportunity for residents to comment on other matters than what they've already spoken about regarding the town of Amherst. So I'll motion that this time.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Chris, please go ahead.
Chris Targowski, Youngs Road. I just have a question. Dunkirk just replaced the lights.
Right.
Why didn't the town just replace the lights?
The question is, Dunkirk replaced the lights, why didn't the town? So Dunkirk did go through the same process that we did. They used a company called LED Solutions who held the
loan.
Who holds the loan and the interest on the lights. They pay them a tariff on the lights themselves. So that was one of the companies who was part of our original RFP process, ultimately not the company selected through the scoring. Thank you.
Okay. Another question. You mentioned the archives building, and one of the reasons we're moving the historic village onto the Westwood property, which will be my third question, is because you need the space of the museum. Why, have you done a cost analysis of what it would cost to put a new archive building on the Oakwood property, which has been abandoned, there's plenty of space to put it there, versus the cost analysis to move that museum and everything onto Westwood?
It is one of the ongoing conversations in the town, and if we had the opportunity to build an archive building, we believe it would be about $6.8 million.
We got to figure that one out. Okay, the third question. Westwood. I read the CNS engineering report. Now, I've disagreed with you from day one, and you and I have had numerous conversations with regarding Westwood. And I'm not going to get into all the details tonight. I read the CNS engineering report, which Mensch had commissioned. It clearly shows, and folks, this is in the Williamsville Library. You can get it. You can go online and you can read it. It's quite in depth. The they show contamination, which I've always said is there, not only on the greens, but on the tees and the fairways. They highlight the remediation investigation of all the holes on that golf course. Now, either Medj pulled a fast one to get tax credits, or we're covering up something. And I hopefully would believe, I know people have had their differences with you, but I truly don't believe that you would cover up a health issue in this town. I don't. I mean, I've known them. I don't always agree with them. I don't agree with the tax increase, and mine was well over $285. But I don't believe you would intentionally jeopardize the health of the residents in this community.
I did not. So
I know you did.
the CNS study with what you're talking about regarding the Mensch property at the time was conducted. They did not test every location. They
I know that.
tested some very specific locations and came up with high levels.
So let me
for
ask you
those
this.
locations.
All right,
If you
let me interrupt you real
extrapolated
quick.
Across the course, we have a testing report that we're expecting back.
All right. My question is, because it was kind of odd, just 2 weeks before New York State was going to come in and thoroughly test this property, you struck a deal with Mensch, okay? Now, you know that there's the possibility of contamination, and it can be far more than the arsenic that may be out there. Why would you not have New York State do a thorough testing of this property?
We have done a thorough testing of the property. We are waiting for results. We suspect they're going to be very low.
So New York State came in and did the quadrant testing.
We followed New York State DEC to a T on this, yes.
All right, you should put that out there so people know.
I would like to post the actual results, not just the early stuff. So once we do have that, we will put it up on the website and talk about it.
Okay. Well, that's a positive sign. The fourth, Boulevard Mall. I'm really going to date myself on this one. I've been involved with Boulevard Mall since 1976 to 2018. Opened the very first Gap store there, so you can get an idea how old I am. I had a lot of conversations with general managers over those years. I'm telling you right now, and I know Douglas knows, and I certainly know Benderson knows, there is a lot of bad stuff underneath that mall. And somebody, before you get the town into a real jam, should be investigating what is underneath there. Because when they built, a lot of you remember they had the carousel, and that was the food court, and then they added on Dick's. Well, let me tell you, when they did all that, they couldn't even run the electrical lines underneath because things are so bad down there. They just sealed it off and rerouted everything. So I know Douglas knows this, and I know Pedersen knows it, but the town should be aware of it because now you're talking serious remediation dollars. Now, there's a reason Jamal wants out of this thing, because he realizes that the profit potential, the risk reward is not there. It's just that simple. All right? And, if he were to do it on his own. Now, this was your idea, and I actually kind of like the idea. I'm not so happy about 10 stories, but, to redevelop that mall, I'm with you on the redevelopment. I just don't agree with how you're doing it, because it really bothers me to think that two businesses could say, hey, we want to eliminate these other businesses so that we can take over and develop this property. Now, this will be studied in law journals for years to come, I guarantee you. But having said that, how are we going to find out what is underneath that building and what the remediation costs would be? You should be looking into this. So I hope you will. It's out there now. You've been told. You can't say 6 months from now or a year from now, when this goes through and you start demolishing, what did we find here? We didn't know about this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Deborah Croning, 1221 North French. I haven't been to a town board meeting in many years, and shame on me for that. I used to come very often, and it seemed like things were quite different. There was actually communication between all the board members. Now it seems like two people do all the speaking. I'd like to know what the rest of you think. What do you have to say? Why don't you communicate with the residents? I'd like to address the salary of the supervisor. That is outrageous, especially considering the tax situation right now. What does the average Amherst resident make in a salary? Do you know that?
Average household income is 78,000.
Okay, don't you think your salary should be somewhere in a range of that? Why are you, I understand that you did not vote for a pay raise for yourselves, but did you ever think about taking a pay cut? You are a public servant. You all are. Our forefathers, in the founding of our country, considered it was like a duty. It wasn't a fun duty. You had to go to Washington, you had to work, it cost you money, you got little or no pay. You're public servants. You're serving us. Why are you making so much money? I know many families that 2 incomes don't make as much as you make. And you might say, well, you might think that your experience or what you're doing is important. Sure, yeah, you're the town supervisor for a very important town in Erie County. But what about us? You're representing the people here. Shouldn't your salary be more in line with what we're dealing with? I really think it's really embarrassing. And as it was mentioned before, I used to be proud to say I lived in the town of Amherst, and now it's kind of a joke. Other towns are like, oh, like we're all stupid or something. And the story about the city of Dunkirk, and no, nothing bad about the city of Dunkirk, but they have a lot of struggles that we don't have here. They have a lot that they deal with that we don't deal with here. And the fact that they could come up with a better deal for lighting, doesn't that make you all really incompetent? And as it's been mentioned several times, I honestly think if you have any integrity, you would all resign tonight. Thank you.
My name is Cindy Seitz. I live at 32 Bearhaven Drive. And tonight, I've been going, can you hear me? Okay. Cindy Seitz, 32 Bearhaven Drive. I've been coming to the town board meeting since the, I think August, September, regarding the illegal aliens. And I don't live that far from the Red Roof Inn. And I talked to the board regarding how it's going to impact our schools. And tonight, we found out it's cost like $22,000 to educate these children. So if we have the same tax base or a little more, it's taking away from the kids that are our kids. But that's not your issue. I came here tonight because I was thinking to myself, I have to live on a budget, so do you. Small items add up, right? And so when I decide, oh, you know what, I really like to remodel my kitchen this year. Can I? I don't know. I have to sit down and look at everything. So what I was thinking was, why are we all messed up with I call it the country club, and why are we involved with the mall? And I just don't understand it. And why do we have to press so hard to do stuff regarding developers? Last town board meeting, there was people that were talking about the Gleason question. And so you answered their questions. And you said we were pausing because residents brought up the brownfield issue. And you also said the reality is that the town board, and this is a direct quote, we don't know a ton about brownfields. And we only know what is on a paper in front of us. We need to do a lot of work as the town boards as a town board regarding this issue. This is about Gleason's. And when I heard that, I thought to myself, my God, that sounds like Nancy Pelosi saying we have to vote on it to find out what's in it, in a way, right? And I thought, wow, when dealing with these issues, these kinds of issues like brownfields, issues that impact the homeowners' health and environment, perhaps you should listen to the town folks. Tonight, I heard with the 800 and 850 new road, at least you're kind of like asking questions, which is great. Also, when you think about stuff that's coming down the pike, one thing I saw tonight on the resolutions was the 2024-101, the accepting the land donation of, was it 75 Tupelo? It's going to cost us in taxes $2,400 a year. We're bailing out another developer for this? I don't understand that. Like, why would we want that? It's water, it's land that's butted up against two houses at an end of a dead-end street. It's got wetlands, and you think you're going to put a playground there? I don't understand that, because all the other materials in the packet said we don't know what the future is going to be, but you kept saying it's a play area or an open area. It just was very convoluted. And the other thing that I did see about your resolution is, one more thing, is Resolution 2024-82. The town wants to buy a Chevrolet Silverado $3,500, or $3,500. It gets about 12 miles a gallon. It's $76,000. The town wants to buy this. My one question is, who's driving this? After we purchase this, who is driving this vehicle? It's not green, and you guys seem to be, you want to do all this green stuff, save the wetlands, do LEDs, and you're purchasing a truck that's it's 12 miles to the gallon. Lastly, one more thing. I've been coming to these meetings, and I'm looking at the agenda, and I'm looking at the packet. Tonight's packet was over 700 pages, okay? So you have to download the sucker, and then you have to go find, and you have to guess, what did they call it? Now, some people might not be as savvy as me, but you know, would it be nice if you hot linked these things so that if it's in the agenda, you hot link it to the stuff in the packet, so that if I'm interested in something, I just click on it, takes me right to the packet, page number 482, instead of me trying to scroll through it. And I think it would make it, if you did something like that, it would make it more transparent for your citizens. And transparency is what we're trying to get to that point, right? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? I'm going to motion to close public. One more, okay.
Hello, my name is Fred Lenz. I live at 64 East Chateau Terrace in Snyder. And I have just two issues I want to talk about. And one is the sound system here. I'm a musician, and I recently purchased a sound system, and it was just a little over $300. It has 5 channels, it has 4 inputs. I'm thinking, I don't know if that's heat or if those are the speakers. Are those the speakers behind you?
No, those are mechanical speakers.
Where are the speakers? These little guys?
There's 4 of them.
The microphone is really bad as people get close to it, and they're not used to speaking in a microphone. I'm in the third row this time. I come to every meeting now because, quite frankly, they're enjoyable. And you've got to get a better sound system. You've got $100 million in a budget. Perhaps maybe by the next meeting you'll have, my computer has better speakers. Now the second thing I want to... 300. No, that's for my band. I mean, the computer, I don't know. You know, the sound in here is really bad. Now, there's a gentleman that spoke, an attorney, about a project on Worley. And to me, that's a smart project. It's a little over 0.4 acres. And there's 4 townhouses that they're proposing, and they look beautiful. There'll be great housing for people. I live on Chateau Terrace, and we had quite a time earlier this year because between Chateau Terrace and Fruhoff, a developer in Amherst is proposing to knock down the Squire shop. I mean, I don't want to revisit that. Nothing's happening. Eventually, shovels will be there. But they were looking at almost 70 units. Now, this townhouse had 4 units on 0.4 acres. And we have a little over 0.8 acres that straddles Chateau and Fruhoff. I don't know if anything's being considered to change this project or what's going to happen, but looking at the townhouses on Worley, that's smart development. Chateau and Fruhoff, that's not smart development. That's all I have to say for this evening. Thank you for the work that you do.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Motion to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll motion to adjourn the board meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Yeah, February 5th.